Folks on YouTube, welcome back. Yeah, I could be an oversight, uh, but Canada actually got its focus tree before the British got theirs. So,
Hmm.
and they added these decisions when Britain got the focus tree to withdraw. So I don't know. They want to be communist, but they want to be completely independent of the UK. Might not be because of ideology, whatever their
Yeah.
excuse may be. They maybe the event should have different text because they're
Flavor text. Yeah.
although they haven't actually gone that way yet. What they haven't actually flipped. So what technically is happening is there's
Right.
the government is capitalist and the UK is a communist government now or socialist government. And socialism is gaining support among the population in Canada, but the rulers are still, capitalists. So, and that's what actually affects their
Yeah.
decisions, what the ruling ideology is. So, I guess it's not actually inconsistent. In fact, they're not just capitalists; they're liberals. Not liberals as in left wing. Liberals as in liberal corporatist, as in tries to cut regulations on industry and stuff like that. Although this guy's also the father of the Canadian welfare state, so but
Hmm.
that's actually whatever leader Canada has when they take a certain focus gets that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they always but this guy was a liberal corporatist, so he was like very like anti-trade union and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, there is a definite dissonance between the leader of the country and the increasing the way the population's views are starting to sway.
Yeah.
Just like the U.S., where there's increasing support for fascism and communism, and the rulers are still a lot of the ruling class is still liberals, even though Trump himself may be considered a fascist. But hey, in Hearts Iron, you can have rulers who boost ideology for a non India declares independence. Uh,
Just the day after Canada.
yep, they probably all got decisions, and India just took a little longer to make their choice than the Canadians. Um, you can have leaders who boost support for an ideology. It's not the ruling one. Like one of the random generic leader traits is vengeful industrialist, which gives plus zero point zero 0.01 fascist support. So you can
Oh
usually
my
have
God.
like, yep,
South Africa too.
the allies are dissolving.
And in Westminster.
That means they're going either fascist or communist.
I have 75 political power, by the way. Should I get the Banco de Mexico or my captain of industry?
Captain of industry, because Banco de Mexico, one of the main uses is mobilizing, and you still can't do war economy yet. Like Mexicans, Genta still has too few factories.
Yeah, that's true. All
I
right,
assume.
so captain of industry.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Probably right now your factory count's are inflated from all the stuff, the licenses. But if you click on
That
the
too.
little war thing on the top of your screen, how many factories does it say they have around? Because they might have done an industrial focus by this point.
They have between 4 and 6.
And it was 4 and 5. So I think they've taken one industrial focus at this point. They've added one factory. And you're getting 19. And what's your factory count at the top of your screen say?
13.
Oh, it says 13 at the top.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So I don't
Doesn't
know.
count all the.
Maybe it
Yeah.
doesn't count them because you're using them to buy stuff. It might count them later, but 13, and they probably have 5 factories. So yeah, they're building more via focus. And I don't think your dockyards count, so it might be 11 and 5. No, that would be over 40%. Hold on. If you hover over war economy, what does it say for there should be a checklist of conditions?
I'm not fascist, communist, or at war with an enemy with more than 40% of my total number of factories.
Okay, yeah. Assuming it doesn't count any of those any of those licensed factories, which it might, uh, they probably still need to get build one more factory before you can do war economy.
Yeah.
So, but it could be more, and you probably still want to shoot. You don't probably want to do this thing too much longer. Probably, after all these purchasing contracts, current ones end, I might want to cancel some of the licenses. So we'll see. You might want to so that you can do war economy. But yeah, you already took the captain of industry.
Not yet.
Oh, yeah, you might actually want to do the central bank thing because it won't be too long until the junta has enough factories for you to take war economy.
Okay.
At most, like my best guess is 140 days or 210, depending on what order they do the focuses in. And what's
All
your
right.
daily?
I have Banco de Mexico.
Yep,
Oh, I can get another doctrine.
nice.
Okay. Assault, right? The assault side. Mechanized offense.
Yeah,
Okay.
because after that comes one that gives you extra max planning, I believe. Yeah, assault concentration, and also defensive tactic, but
All
planning.
right.
Also, elastic defense is really good. Mechanized offensive enables it. Um, how much command power do you have right now?
86.
Oh, you can assign a preferred tactic. Now, if you go to your officer core screen and see the little thing in the upper right that looks like chess pieces,
Uh. Oh, yeah. Preferred tactics selection.
yeah, and you can
Well
select.
planned attack, elastic defense, and blitz.
Yeah, you can select elastic defense now.
Is that the best one?
It's the best defensive one. It's also a counter to blitz, but it's the best defensive tactic. Pretty much, guerrilla warfare has a is technically worse stat wise, although it does really slow down attacks so that you can just delay the enemy to all heck until you get reinforcements in. But in terms
Okay.
of stats, it's the best defensive tactic in the game. Um, or it's the best one you can get with Grand Battle Plan for sure. I don't remember if Backhand Blow is better, but that's not available under Grand Battle Plan. In fact, it's not even available under Mobile Warfare if you do the Desperate Defense version. Minus 20 plus 25. Okay, I think it is inferior to Backhand Blow, but you can't get Backhand Blow yet. It's the best that you can get under Grand Battle Plan. So it's the second best defensive tactic in the game. Backhand Blow is the best, but it's only available under Mobile Warfare or Mass Assault. I don't think you can even get it under Superior Firepower. Nope, you can't get it under Superior Firepower. It's Mobile Warfare or Mass Assault are the only doctrines that get Backhand Blow, which is the best defensive tactic. But neither of those are very defensively oriented trees, especially Mobile Warfare. I guess Mass Assault is somewhat. It does give 5% entrench, plus 5 entrenchment. But yeah, excuse me. Mass Assault is generally a weaker tree despite the tactics being a little better than Grand Battle Plan. The advantage of it is it's good for really low supply combat and losing lots and lots of men. If you have if you're the Soviets, you want it because you lose tons of men on the Eastern Front, and it'll help with the war support cost from that. But as Mexico, I mean, it's very hard to push through the Darien Gap and stuff, but none of your opponents have that many divisions, so you're not actually losing that many men. It's just the
Yeah.
offensives get stalled forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
Different problem, and Grand Battle Plan is better for dealing with that. Um, yeah, anyways, now that you have elastic defense as a preferred tactic, how much army XP do you have?
13.
Oh, yeah. Probably yeah, it's not gonna be a while, but oh, and then coordination, assault. Yeah, you probably want to get the doctrines first. But that will help if they decide to attack you somewhere. Your generals can now sometimes roll elastic defense, which will help them just perform a little better and mean you can potentially hold some parts of your front with fewer divisions. Um, Speaking of which, is there anywhere along the front that looks like you outnumber the junta forces by a lot? Like besides in the very south?
The very north,
Oh yeah, they only have one division there,
and
don't
I've got
they?
9.
Yeah, they might push on Chihuahua, but
I've got 5 in Chihuahua, so they're
five.
fine.
Oh yeah, five. You could probably pull one of the divisions from Chihuahua. I assume they're all small, but you'll still need men to fill in. At this point, now that you have the last defense thing, you could probably pull a division from Chihuahua and bring them down to like where the jungle is in preparation to fill in behind the attacking divisions or even support the
Yeah.
attack. Yeah. You may even have to use the small divisions to attack just because you just don't have that many.
Yeah.
And when India, it's just it's hard to push for
Should I
you.
train more?
Uh oh yeah, how many rifles do you have now? That was part of why I was selling you rifles because you had nothing hardly.
Uh, 1.7.
Oh yeah, you could definitely add a division to training.
Only about half of them will be M1 Garens.
Though once they deploy, it'll replace. It's actually better. You don't need divisions,
Okay.
and I mean sometimes I even go about it. Sometimes I even go about making sure that creating a separate training template that's only uses basic equipment, so that all the like best equipment goes to the front, and then switch them into a template that has other equipment enabled once they deploy, so that they can so that the high quality stuff doesn't get tied up in training instead, you know.
Okay.
But then it takes a long time if you're short on the better equipment for the better
Yeah.
equipment to actually for them to swap it out, and you probably don't have that long to wait. So, anyways, so you added another one to training, I guess.
Yep.
Cool. How many divisions do you have in training right now?
Just the one.
Oh, you didn't have any.
Nope.
Cool. Yeah.
I
Oh, the
made one and then I let it stop.
yeah. Oh, so you have three larger divisions now in the south.
Yep. I've got 3 of them.
Cool. And the combat width of the it's only 60 width in a jungle. So yeah, to use the fourth one, you'll have to attack from two directions. Otherwise, you'll
I'm
suffer.
doing that right now anyway.
Yeah. And with two directions, you can attack with up to. I think those are 18 width divisions, so you can attack with five of them without penalty. So
Cool.
yeah, you might actually even add a fifth. I mean, one more division to training. So you're training two at this point because it's getting close to time to push.
Hmm.
I mean, well,
Okay.
not close, but it takes 4 months to train them, and then it takes longer to
Yeah.
exercise them up to regular. Oh yeah, are the ones that you deployed recently that are only trained, are they exercising at all, or I
No, they're
forgot?
already regulars.
Oh, the
The
already.
one I just trained, oh no, he's not. He's about to start fighting once he's at max preparation.
Oh,
Is
you
that all
might
right?
want to have them exercise up to regular first.
Okay.
Uh, in that army, are any other divisions below regular?
Nope.
Yeah, then you could probably just shift click on exercise for that army and it'll just train that one division. The others won't.
Okay.
Yeah, in the meantime I might call off that tack there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh and that general I learned something recently that this might be actually be useful. Do you have any that general probably has some other offensive lines drawn elsewhere?
What do you mean?
The guy who's in charge of the south, like he has other parts, other fronts that are under his command too, right? He
Just the southern.
hold on. If you
Here, I'll
share your
share my screen.
screen, I can probably explain this better. This is about something. Well, it's not that I learned it. It's that I learned it, forgot it, and I relearned something recently. Was reminded of it that I'd forgotten entirely. So, um, so the thing is that if you execute battle plans, they only lose 1% planning a day when fighting, and if you manually order them to attack like you did, they lose 3%. So,
Oh,
might be worth having them do the auto execute like after you like try and take the province for real, but you probably want to change like the plans a little if you're doing that because the plans before were just kind of optimized for your own use, and the AI thinks a little differently than humans, obviously. So, but if you show your screen,
I am.
oh, it's not showing a thing to watch your screen.
Uh, well, now.
Oh, here we go. Watch stream. Um, yeah, you see. Oh, geez, that whole blue front is you have all of them in one giant front line, don't you? That's going
Sort
to
of.
cause issues if you actually. I would delete the front line. Is that division that's redeploying down there? Is he? What is he assigned to? Is he assigned to that?
Oh, that was manually. That was the guy you told me to pull off of
Yeah,
Chihuahua.
no, but is he actually assigned to the general at the bottom, or is he still
Yep,
assigned to the
I
front up?
reassigned him.
Oh, good. I was to say otherwise he'll try and go march back north as soon as he arrives. Yeah, you might want a strategic redeployment, or it'll take forever and it'll suffer
Oh,
attrition because of
yeah. I always forget about that.
yeah. Um, but yeah, if you are yeah, because you probably want to do is to break this into multiple lines and just have the divisions nearby that you're going to want to fill in behind be the ones in that little front and have the others on a separate offensive line, or even reassign them to the other generals just to make sure that they don't like the ones near Augusta, whatever. You might want to even just reassign to the other general to make sure that they don't attack when he does. Yeah, and then you might give them just unassigned because they're currently on his other front. Oh no, I would not do that. I would definitely not do that. I would drag it back to where it was before. And oh, whoa, no, that won't work either. So you first have to unassign divisions before you can give them a new front line. Like you see, none of them are assigned. Oh, or you can just assign.
There we go.
Um, yeah, and does that include the ones in Leon there?
No.
Who? Yeah, you might want to assign them to him as well. Maybe give him a separate micro front instead of that big one. Them and the ones east of them. Because what you don't want is these divisions in the mountains. And have to mute the audio
Okay.
on the stream because you got something playing that's when
Oh,
you add your
sorry.
own stuff to it. Yeah, no, sorry. YouTube tried to put a copyright thing on me because you were playing a bit of a Screaming Eagle
Right.
song a while back, and I'm like, what the heck?
Sabaton, right.
They
Bad for
didn't.
streamers, yeah.
It didn't
And
affect me
YouTube.
because I haven't monetized yet. But if any of these, if someday my channel monetizes, they're probably like, you can't monetize this
They'll,
video.
yeah,
It's
they'll
like,
demonetize it.
which is annoying because it's the um, Copyright Act is supposed to protect under fair use if something is less than like 30 seconds, and that was literally 10 seconds of a Screaming Eel song.
Yeah.
YouTube just does not care about the law. They don't give a shit. They leave it up to the discretion of the copyright holder to
Yeah.
apply, and if you appeal it, the
Hmm.
appeal goes to the copyright holder, which is ridiculous. If they're breaking the law and saying something is a copyright violation isn't, which they do all the time, the person who gets to decide the appeal should not be the person who owns the copyright. You see the conflict of interest there.
Yeah.
It's intentionally designed to be as corrupt and wrong as possible. But yeah, you can give those other guys the ones that were broken into the microfronts. Um, you oh yeah. By the way, if you control left click or something, I forget it's control left or right. It selects everyone who's I think it's control left. Whoever you just did, that was left or
Right click,
that was
control right.
control. Yeah, control right, and it selects everyone on that microfront. But if you select each of them, you probably want to give them offensive lines so they can still keep their planning up. Uh,
Does
just
each
so,
micro front need a offensive
yes.
line?
Uh, yeah, doesn't have to be big, but um, you're probably not planning on pushing with them anyhow. But just in case, like you forget, and then later you want to suddenly attack, you don't want to have to wait for them to get the planning back. So, uh, but you can assign order just one general attack. You don't have to have the whole army group attack. So what you can do is now
Yeah.
you've just got those divisions under that one general in the south.
Mm-hmm.
11 divisions. Wow, that's a lot. A lot of them are tiny. Three big
Yeah.
and 8 small. But if you had were to order him to attack now, he would, which you can't do while any of them doing exercises
Yeah.
anyhow. But once exercises are done, just those divisions will attack, the others wouldn't. And because the AI is doing it instead of a manual order, they lose planning more slowly, which means they fight slightly more effectively because, like 3 days into a fight, they'll still have more planning bonuses than if you.
What should I do with this guy up here? The
Oh,
one in
he.
Chihuahua. That's. Should I
Uh,
actually send him down here?
yeah, I would assign him to that microfront again if he wasn't, or he already is. And I would just strategic redeploy him to. Hold on, because the AI will try and balance the divisions there anyway. If you can look down at the south, and zoom in, I can't see it very well. It's too. You got how many in the left and how many in the right? 3 and 8. Yeah, you probably want to send them into the jungle and just strategic redeploy there, because otherwise the AI will start deciding it needs to rebalance other divisions. And yeah, everyone's fully supplied there, right? By the way, if you go to supply,
Yep. Pretty sure.
oh yeah, it's solidly blue. You got lots of supplies there. Cool. Um, just checking because if you like seeing the supply ball lot, but yeah, you'll have when that guy arrives, you'll have 11 divisions there, three of them large um, to eventually push, and then I think you got three large ones and you got two in training, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and when they're
Yep.
done, and then also trained up to
Should
regular,
I
then
should I drop them at 20%?
I don't know about 20 cent, maybe 50 or 60.
Ah,
I
okay.
mean, you're not that rushed. Yeah, but
All
when
right.
they're up to regular, then you'll have 5 divisions attack, which is the most you can attack with at that combat in that terrain anyway. So yeah, stop and watching the stream. You don't need to keep streaming; it'll just slow your internet. But yeah, with 5 divisions, not only is that the width limit of that terrain, but then that will give you 5 divisions to keep pushing north, even if some of them have to remain behind to deal with counterattacks. Or to spread
Yep.
out and like attack into both the jungle and the mountain north of it or whatever. It's just um, strength, flexibility. There's no reason not to. If you got the equipment, and you should probably have enough, especially with all the stuff you're buying, and I'm subsidizing the sale of. So, do you have any factories idle right now, like on construction, I should say? Not idle, but not doing purchasing.
Nope.
All right, cool. As I say, getting closer to to you gotta it takes time once you buy the equipment for it to actually be given to your men. So trying to get you lots of rifles so that when you attack, everyone has the modern ones.
Yeah.
Hmm. Almost done with the Bureau of Ships here, and then I'm probably starting the Union
Oof.
Representation at next. What?
Well, I'm out of convoys. All 6 sunk.
Oof. That is
That's not
unfortunate.
good.
Am I selling you any right now, or?
Yeah, you're selling me. You're still selling me 12.
Okay, yeah. So in the next, how many are in the next shipment? Let's see. It's based on how many factories assigned, how many arrive in each shipment. Uh, yeah, you'll get 5 in the next shipment. So, and one of your dockyards is still producing convoys, right?
Yeah,
How long until the next convoy finishes
the
production?
12th. The 12th of May.
Cool. So in 5 days, you'll get 5 convoys from me. In 5 days, you get your next shipment of 5, and then in 7 days, you'll have one more. So you should only be about a week till you have 6 convoys again. So you should be able to. Won't be long. It's 5 days till you can send the first one to the Republic probably, and then 2 days after that, some more to the Commune. Lots of Army XP. So I did 7 days. That's such a short cooldown. I was wondering why I kept getting spammed with when we were doing the 3-person multiplayer, and I kept getting spammed with Mexican rifle shipments. I got one like every 2 weeks, and I was like, "What
Oh
the
yeah.
heck?" I'm not kidding you. It was like every 2 to 3 weeks I would get a shipment of rifles from Mexico. I was wondering why the AI was
Oh.
doing it. It's because they get Army XP like crazy for doing it.
Yeah.
And if they don't sell
Do you get
convoys,
an
because
event every time?
yep, and because they
Wow,
don't
that's gotta be so annoying.
it was a little bit, and because they don't sell, but it was free stuff, so I was happy.
Yeah.
Um, and if I was getting it like every 2 or 3 weeks, they were probably running it even more, and some of the convoys were getting lost on the way, and I didn't get
Yeah.
events when they got sunk only when they arrived, so they were like constantly running it. Which means they probably had all their military factories on rifle production. Maybe they were even buying some, like you're doing, and they didn't sell convoys to me like you did early on. So they probably had all their dockyards and convoys. They were just putting their entire economy into sending me. It's a really good decision, and
Yeah.
apparently the AI knew it. So you know when even the AI does it, it's a good idea sometimes. Something like that. Not always. Sometimes the AI does dumb stuff, but they must have gotten so much Army XP from that. I didn't realize they were getting that. Well, I mean, it did later when I looked at it, but I didn't at the time. It was because of that I looked at Mexico's decisions and realized it when I forget if it was when we did this MP game or when I was doing the earlier one that the guy kind of fell off, didn't have time for anymore, lost interest in whatever it was. Um, Bureau ships is done. Cool.
Can you do the same thing if you go like right wing Mexico?
Yeah, you can send shipments to the nationalists. Same thing. If you go
All right,
the
cool.
fascist, the right wing, the support Spain's loyalists route, which actually you don't have to go fascist to do it. It just let's see, it just requires Spanish Civil War refugees, which you can actually get. You can even depoliticize the army and do the army academy and then do it, or um, you can't do revolutionary women unless you take one of the legacy revolution or ban. Oh, you can still ban political militias, revolutionary women, soldados. I guess you can do that. And then, but anyways, once you get Spanish Civil War refugees, you can actually take Phalanges veterans. Um, and then you can do that.
Oh,
So yeah, it's not limited just to supporting the left. You can support the right instead if you want. Uh, let's see. It is May 14th. I have just enough support in the Senate. Okay, I can. Should I run it now or heck with it? Yeah, I'm gonna start the Union Representation Act, which is going to cause me problems down the line, but this means it's probably a little more than 210 days till the after it finishes. So it's about 280 days to 320 days till my Civil War breakout now. Less than a year, which means it'll break out early 1939. Just to give you an idea of when it's likely to happen.
yeah.
It's like a mean time to happen, so it could happen like
Should I
earlier.
should I start invading the junta?
Not yet. That's enough time to do like 3 or 4 focuses, so they and you can't do war economy yet, but they could add some more build slots, and you don't have to be ready to join the war right away. You just don't want it to have
Okay.
been going on for like 2 solid years when you join, and then there's
Yeah.
have a hard time actually getting the necessary war score if you're gonna puppet Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I'll pause. How are you doing? You took the central bank, right?
Yeah. Now I'm almost done with Confederation of Mexican Workers.
Oh, nice. And then you can take when you
Oh,
finish it.
shit! Really?
What?
Okay. That's another one.
Australia independence. Lovely.
Yep.
Um. Hmm. No, I can grab improved radio tech. I should probably
Now it's
do
just what, New Zealand?
that. Yeah, New Zealand
Malaysia.
and Malaysia. Malaysia generally doesn't declare independence, so that may be
Yeah.
their only remaining colony because it's a
Hmm.
integrated puppet and has very
Oh,
little autonomy. So
yeah.
yeah, it's kind of hard for
I
the
see.
government to do that.
What about Africa?
Improved rate. Hold on. Or no, I'm just gonna probably do want to do improved rate. It's a little early to do ahead of time stuff. What about Africa? You said.
Yep.
None of that. Well, when none of that goes independent via like event. There's no countries to make to react, but the UK can do withdraw from Africa, self government for Africa. When they take that focus on their focus tree, they create puppets of all the African colonies.
Yeah.
First, they do self-government for the Mediterranean. So first comes Malta. Um, and first comes
Okay.
Malta and Cyprus, and then Africa. There's
Hmm.
also ones for the Middle East, the Americas. So Jamaica, Belize. Oh, Belize does become an independent country if you haven't bought it by then. Uh,
Oh shoot. Oh wait, I guess if they are independent, I can just conquer them, right?
yeah, and if they're an independent country, they'll be running their industry focuses. You might never get indoctrination out of them, but they're still industry, and instead of waiting on that or keeping them as a puppet and waiting forever for them to do indoctrination, have enough manpower to raise a colonial division, it's not a terrible thing. Like, it's a little weaker in the long run, but then, that free 400 manpower every week, but it's not terrible either because they'll get their factories built sooner. Um, and whatever ones you don't annex but puppet, you can reduce and integrate puppets and get 3/4 of their military factories. So the alternative would be to annex them, have to deal with resistance until you can take a decision to integrate them, and then spend political power to integrate them. And I think you need some compliance before you do that. So it's a bit of a pain.
Hmm.
It's stronger in the long run if they've already run all their industrial focuses, but if they haven't, I mean, leaving him as a puppet that way, you can eventually annex integrated puppets. It just costs 200 political power each time for each one you do. That is, so it's
Yeah.
kind of expensive. And also, you have to reduce their autonomy first, which you generally do by leasing them a ton of equipment. Like, a common tactic is they reduce the effective convoys autonomy. It used to be more, but it would be people would lease them like 1,000 convoys and then annex them in a day.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Or, well, it takes a month for the equipment to arrive, but a day after it all arrived, they would annex them. It was kind of ridiculous. Well, it was less than 1,000. I forget the number they had to send to reduce them to zero autonomy remain to annex, but they would do it because a lot of players don't care about Navy, so they don't care about using all the dockyards to produce convoys like that. And when they annex them, they get half the convoys back. So.
Oh, the other half just disappeared.
Into thin air. Yep.
Okay.
Anyways, I'll pause it. Still haven't figured out what I'm gonna do with my next Navy tech. Oh, I know what I can do. Do it ahead of time. Electric torpedoes. $216. Sorry, I'm just looking how long 2 very ahead of time focuses might take. 326. This is definitely more funds per day. Hmm. Sorry, I got a tech and I'm trying to figure out what I should do with it. You know, it is 36. 1936. Yeah, I'm gonna start working my artillery tech now. Um, Something to keep in mind is it's not too long until 1939 rolls around, Joe.
Yeah.
Um, which will remove the ahead of time penalties from a whole bunch of things in the industry tree, infantry equipment too. What are you taking right now?
Marines 1, mechanical computing, and radio.
Huh. Yeah, you probably want to start running up infantry equipment, improved infantry equipment 1, and then infantry equipment 2. Once you do radio, I think, or whatever, whichever the second one of those is, or maybe the first. I don't know which finishes next.
Um, between in general, or
Which of
because
the techs is finishes
yeah,
first? Is what I'm asking.
Marines 1 is 37 days. Radio is 64, and mechanical computing is 113.
The first marine, the very first one was how many days again?
37 for Marines,
And the second was
64 for radio.
37. Yeah, yeah. The first one you probably want to start like, I talked about you can save up 30 days and then spend them on something to let ahead of
Yeah.
time penalties get less. You might want to save up towards construction 3. Excuse me, and get that when that one caps out, because before long you're gonna have a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff that you're from the licenses, and you might want to build like finish that Sonora factory before I start canceling the licenses. Just get it done quick. I
Yeah.
can't afford to do this forever, but it can give you a little boost to your industrial snowball. And
I still have to research support equipment.
uh oh, you haven't done support equipment 1 yet. Oh, you haven't even done the basic support equipment, have you?
Yeah. Yeah. Support equipment. I have none of it.
Um
So I have to
yeah,
do that before I can get engineers. Do Marines need support equipment?
pioneers, I don't they need it to be equipped, but I don't know if you need, you don't need the tech for it, I don't think so. You
I
can
suppose I can buy it, right?
you can, yeah, you can buy it if you want, but it is getting to be more expensive as tech advances. Purchasing becomes less efficient because you get 5 value worth of equipment per day in a purchase contribution for each SIP factory assigned to purchasing equipment, and equipment normally goes for twice what the cost shows up on like the military production screen. So like, all right, artillery 1 costs 3.5, so it costs 7 at standard pricing if it's not jacked up to buy a single towed artillery, right? Which means that it takes 1.4 days for a civilian factory to buy a towed artillery 1, and that's no matter what your tech level is. So as you get to higher tech levels, a military factory becomes more and more efficient relative to that. Like I normally I have 1 factory on artillery, and right now I produce 1.53 artillery per day. But as I gain tech, that number will grow even more. Whereas I can only buy one of these every 1.4 days, which you can already see is substantially worse. It's like half as good right now with the Civ, but that number, just that cost ratio just keeps getting worse. So as tech starts to
Okay.
advance, it becomes more and more worthwhile to produce the equipment yourself rather than buy it. Purchasing becomes more and more wasteful, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, you probably do want to produce your own support equipment eventually. I didn't realize back
Yeah.
when I think on that three-part game talking about specializing support equipment, I didn't realize how inefficient purchasing becomes at higher tech levels, or I might not have talked about having one person produce everyone's support equipment, other the artillery and other infantry. Um, I mean, it still does grow the MIOs, so it gives you higher quality equipment, but it's a lot more expensive than a greater degree of self-sufficiency.
Well, but we were gonna lend lease that, right?
Oh yeah, we were gonna lend lease instead of purchase. That's right. Well, lend leasing doesn't cost anything, so yeah, that probably still made sense there.
Does it
But
still apply to MIOs when it's lend leased?
I mean, you get the funding from producing the stuff, not from how you use it. So yeah, you can produce a ton of stuff and just lend lease it all, and you'll still get the MIO funding from.
Right, but does the person receiving the equipment get the upgraded equipment? Like upgraded via the MIO?
Yeah, yeah, they get the
Ah, okay.
equipment with whatever. Same when you're purchasing, you can purchase like you actually can produce slightly better or producing slightly better rifles than I am right now. So if
I
I
th- I
bought
thought I
some,
thought you lost the MAO upgrade when you did that though.
oh no, that was from purchasing a license to produce it myself.
Oh, licensing. You're right. You're
The
right. I see.
licensed variant doesn't
Yeah, that
keep
makes
any
sense.
of the.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't make much sense
Hmm.
since literally
Well,
one of the traits for the German infantry equipment version is called export variants. And apparently
ah,
the export
okay.
variant doesn't receive the buff from export variants.
I see.
It gives reliability to their domestic variant only. Maybe that's
Yeah.
saying that there's a less reliable one that they export and they keep the more reliable one domestically.
Hmm.
Maybe I misunderstood what that's supposed to represent. But uh yeah. Anyways, why did I pause it? Oh yeah, so yeah, you probably need to get the support equipment tech so you can start producing support equipment. Um
I'll need more mill factories first though.
yeah, and you'll need Civ to produce the mill in the first place since I can't keep giving you
Yeah.
Civ forever and ever. This is kind of a limited time thing, so that I mean, I could keep doing it, but it's really actually substantially affecting my industry totals. Wait, how did I suddenly get so many? Oh, it's because they ended the Great Depression spirit. I now have 102.
Oh,
Okay, so it's about a
Spain's looking a lot
sixth of
better.
my what?
Spain's looking a lot better.
Oh, the Republic? Yeah, all those rifles you
Yeah,
sent them are
bit
undoubtedly
healthier.
helping. It took a while for them to actually.
Unfortunately, they're taking some of that land from the commune, but
I mean, it's the commune only gets one industrial focus they can do during the war, and I guess that they have all these aggressive.
yeah, I just don't want them fighting each other and letting one of the nationalists win.
Hmm. Yeah, so the French communist thing, you're right. That's only if they're going Stalinist doctrine.
Oh, okay, cool.
I was thinking looking at Red Iberia. They can do a Red Iberia if they unify the.
Yeah, they might attack Portugal,
Yeah,
but that's
Portugal.
fine.
Yeah, Portugal, Germany, the Soviet Union, Italy, Norway. It looks like that's it, but that's still a long list of countries, and because of like alliances and stuff, they can very easily get drawn into. Norway's not a huge deal, but Italy, if they attack Italy or Germany,
Yeah,
they're gonna get stomped. It's not such. Well, I don't know. Spain still is the Republic path is still the
yeah,
strongest one, and if they try and go the subvert Soviet control, like if the Republic tries to break free from being a puppet, um, I forget it's not subvert Soviet control. The Republic version is um, War of Independence. Oh no, it is under subvert Soviet control. That is what the focus is literally called. If they do subvert, if they choose not to go communist, if they choose oppose the communists and end up subverting Soviet control, then they'll just get roundly stomped. by the Soviet Union, or the Union of Soviet Republics is what it's now called under Trotsky, or under who's their country
Yeah,
leader?
Trotsky.
It is
Lev
Trotsky.
Trotsky.
Oh, because there's like three leaders the left opposition can pick.
Yeah.
Trotsky's only one of the three options. Huh.
Bukharin. Is he one of them?
No, he's right opposition.
Ah, right, right.
Trotsky, and there's this guy called the Siberian Lenin is his leader trait, and that was his name.
Oh.
And there's someone else I forget. There's left and right opposition both have three possible leader
Hmm.
choices, although they can get purged, so they might not have a choice of all three of them, but they can have up to three. Trotsky, of course, like flees to Mexico. So Trotsky can get a
Ivan Smirnov.
yeah, yeah. Smirnov. There's Trotsky is always available to him unless he gets assassinated. Uh,
Yeah.
which I'm trying to think.
Could
Can they?
if he fled, could I be Trotsky? Because I think Trotsky can lead Mexico, can he?
Yeah. If the chain of events happens where, like historically, he must have been brought back from exile, or I think he starts off in exile, and but there's a chain of events which historically happened where he goes to like Finland and then Norway and then to Mexico, and each country gets a decision where they can send him back to the Soviet Union. So the historical chain is actually pretty rare
Yeah.
in a non-historical game, but he can end up in Mexico, and if he ends up in Mexico, you can actually make him your country leader. There's a way to do it when you turn communist, but not going to happen here since he's the leader in Russia now. But yeah, Primakov, Tuchavsky, and Trotsky are the three leader choices, and they can only get the other two if they take the right focus, which I think they took one but not the other. So, they could have chosen a different person instead of Trotsky, is what I'm saying, but they chose Trotsky.
Yeah.
Trotsky has
Okay.
a focus that only he can take. They can only take it if he's the country leader. Builder of the Red Army. It gives him army experience, 2 military factories, and 2 1 year ahead of time penalty reductions to support artillery and infantry equipment. Oh yeah, and it makes him a field marshal too. So that's nice. But the other thing is Trotsky. There's things that later can improve his uh, traits, I believe. I forget where. Let's see if I search their. The Trotsky line. Yeah, because they renamed the Stalin line to the Trotsky line. The Permanent Revolution. Lev Trotsky replaced trait Permanent Revolutionary with Triumphant Revolutionary. Only if he's the country leader does it improve his trait. If one of the other guys is, it just gives him decisions to night revolutions. And so that makes him a really. Yeah, once they take the permanent revolution focus, Trotsky becomes a really good leader. And he also gives him a unique focus that they can only take if he's the country leader. It gives him a couple extra factories. But permanent revolution means he ends up with a high command power income and high maximum command power, and subversive activities are really cheap, and he can justify wars quickly. Or no, it's plus 15% justify war goal time right now. I think there's something that reduces that. He also gets decisions though to, like, he doesn't need to justify manually. So the left opposition gets these decisions where they can. It's like a 30-day war justification via decision. It's very fast and doesn't cost much political power either.
Yeah.
So a player can potentially. There have been people who have conquered the entirety of Europe by like the end of 1938 as left opposition.
Jeez.
It's the AI never does their civil war that fast, and that's like speed running
Yeah.
and not taking focuses. They'll actually make you stronger and stuff just to speed run and just take the AI by surprise. But it's possible to.
Huh.
I do think the AI eventually will start taking some of those decisions, so they will probably eventually try and overrun all the non-communist countries in Europe.
Yeah.
the left opposition is supposed to be very aggressive, whereas the right opposition
Permanent
is,
revolution.
yeah. Uh-huh. Um,
Hmm.
the most
Makes
aggressive
sense.
path is left opposition. The least aggressive is right, and the center is somewhere between the two in
Yeah.
aggressiveness. Yeah, Stalin is less aggressive than Trotsky, because I mean that was that was the entire disagreement between
Yeah.
Trotsky and Stalin. Is Trotsky said we need to bring communism everywhere in the world, or else the capitalists undermine us eventually. They're too powerful. There's no way they'll find a way to defeat us long before we ever manage to catch up to them, which is historically what happened. So he was correct. Um,
Yeah,
Stalin's
roughly.
Stalin said, "No, if we do that, that will antagonize the capitalists even more, and they'll like declare war on us," and which could have
I mean,
happened.
he was also probably right.
Yes, he probably was, because
I don't think they could handle fighting the entirety of Europe.
if the Soviets had been more aggressive, then the British might have done Operation Unthinkable after World War II, and that probably would have defeated the Soviets eventually. Um,
Which was not stopping at Berlin.
that was the British and American forces continuing, yeah, like
Yeah.
in marching
Into,
into the Soviet Union.
yeah. Mhm.
And
Yeah, I suppose I should say
they
what
didn't make it to
Magdeburg, wherever the border was.
yeah, Magdeburg, because the Soviets liberated Berlin. It was the Allied
Marching into
forces.
Soviet occupied territory.
Yeah, some Allied forces. I think that furthest east the Allies made it was Magdeburg, and then was a famous handshake of Berlin, but that was like marching into already Soviet
Yeah.
occupied
Mhm.
territory and going and shaking hands.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes sense.
yeah. The Allies weren't far from Berlin when the Soviets took it, but they didn't make it that far. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so well, let's see. And the right
So they were probably
opposition.
screwed either way.
So yeah, so every one of them had ideas that were in some way based in reality. Stalin was worried about antagonizing the West. Trotsky was worried about the Soviet Union eventually getting undermined, as historically happened, with propaganda plus being economically behind for so long. Even though the Soviet Union was actually growing faster in the West in terms of percentage growth rate, the absolute gap
Yeah,
was
they were
getting.
already starting from a like a semi-feudal
Yes,
empire.
their starting GDP was about 1/13 of a little less than 1/13 of the United States GDP per capita.
Wow.
So even though the
Jeez.
doubling time of their GDP was shorter than that of the United States, they had a faster growth rate. It wasn't that much shorter, and it would
Hmm.
have taken something like it would have taken till around 2050 to match the U.S. GDP per capita
Yeah.
at the rate they were growing before the economic slowdown in the mid 70s. And after the slowdown, it would have taken something like 250 years. They were still growing fast in the U.S., even in their supposedly like bad times. But that's probably because the U.S. was also suffering a recession from the oil crisis, and the 80s like were actually a hard
Yeah.
time in the U.S. economy as well. So they were still exceeding the U.S. growth rate, though there were countries that were growing faster in both of them during that time in the 80s.
Mm.
Like trying to think of a country that was growing faster in both. I think the UK was at that time. I think after Thatcher,
Japan, maybe?
Japan. Yeah, that's one. Japan was
I
growing
know
like
they had a, yeah.
at the time. Japan had the world's fastest GDP
Or maybe
growth
that was the
rate.
90s.
Yeah. Before the
Hmm.
before Nixon abandoned the gold standard, which completely changed patterns of GDP growth and trade all around the world, like he unilaterally dissolved Bretton Woods. Before that happened, the fastest GDP growth rate in the world, I believed, of any developed or not like super poor country, because some of the really poor countries are growing really crazy, like in Africa and stuff. But
Yeah.
the like newly liberated countries, their economies for like the first decade, some of them took off, and then they just hit a wall and crashed. A lot of them later. But the sustainably fastest one was France. And then when
Mm.
Nixon abandoned the gold standard, France had massive U.S. currency reserves, and suddenly they were worth
Oh,
nothing because then the U.S. was free to print as much money as it wanted, and it did. And
yeah.
the dollar, there was stagflation, the U.S. might not have done great, but France got wrecked by Nixon doing that, and
Hmm.
France had 30 years of economic stagnation after that. 30 years of almost no GDP growth. It went from being the
Yeah.
fastest growing economy in the world to flat GDP growth. It was ridiculous.
You know.
And the Soviets got screwed by that too. It's one of the reasons for the Soviet crash starting in the mid 70s is the end of Bretton Woods. The
Yeah.
oil crisis, the end of Bretton Woods, and there was like one other thing. Oh yeah, the U.S. drawing closer to China and China becoming less friendly to the Soviets. Those three things were what triggered eventually what would lead to the Soviet Union's collapse. And then Reagan's massive military buildup in the 80s, which was effectively funded by massive deficit spending that was only made possible by the U.S. withdrawing from the gold standard under
Oh, hey,
Nixon. Because,
my focus is done.
oh, because then the U.S.,
You. Sorry. You said I should do rent freeze.
yeah.
All right.
Um, and you can probably do your captain of industry now. Though you probably, how much?
I have 146, so I could say for war economy. Well, no, war economy is 112 now, actually, so
Yeah. Does it
I
let
can
you,
already afford it.
it's just still grayed out?
No, I can't do it yet. I might have to see after all these factories go away.
Hmm. Um, it's 112 because of, yeah, the central bank. Do you have any factories currently on construction? Probably not.
I actually got 3 working on construction.
Oh,
I'm about to get a lot more once I finish. There's 10 that are about to finish up soon. In 2 days.
hmm. Uh,
So then I can finally get that factory done.
yeah.
But I was gonna say I didn't notice Rwanda and Burundi were part of the Belgian Congo.
Oh, yeah. In this time period, they were. There
I
were
I
eight.
I, I I thought they were British.
Oh no. Part of the reason the Rwanda genocide happened was because of how the Belgians handled Rwanda.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, the Belgians mishandled and massively fueled racism in the area. I mean, it was not an accident. They did it intentionally to
Yeah.
exploit people by turning them against each other.
Do you
Um,
think Do you think Congo and Belgium would be a fun like co-op game? Because they have like a
uh,
giant shared mission tree,
no.
like massive.
Uh, the the interests of the Congo and Belgium very much run counter to each other. um,
Yeah,
it's a weird kind of tension, and besides, Belgium is not a powerful country to say the least.
that's true.
Though they tend to
It's
get
Belgium.
stomped by France or Germany or Italy eventually, or even the UK.
Yeah.
Like it's,
Oh, they only have like 4 states.
yeah. The only way you can Belgium can be maybe playable is if you like form the EU as Belgium very early and get lots of allies.
Conquer France.
Ally France, conquering France not very feasible. Allying
No.
France as Belgium, yeah, you don't have much power. You can ally France though if you form the EU really early and they're democratic. You can actually make him your
Yeah.
puppet.
Oh. Gee.
Yeah, via limited federalization. It's like a special puppet tape. I don't think you can ever annex them or anything from that, but you can still make him your puppet. And that will guarantee that, they'll stay in your faction and so you won't be able to conquer France, but at least you have their military might to help you deal with the Germans.
Did I
Or
just unlock improved worker conditions? I don't remember seeing that before,
let's see.
but I can do it now.
I thought before there was you just didn't have the political power.
No, I've had more than 100 before.
Maybe you ran it before and it disappears after you run it for like 3 years or something.
Oh, I think you might be right.
Well,
I
it
probably
hasn't
did
been
that.
3 years, so maybe it was only two and you did it really early. I don't remember.
Oh.
But
Hmm.
yeah, you can do it now.
I don't know if I should.
It's gonna be a little bit still till the junta gets the factories for war economy.
Then I could get my captain of industry.
I would do the improved worker conditions. You need the stability so that you can eventually crush the Catholic Church down the atheist state without a revolt.
Is that going to be better than prosecuting clergymen? Yeah,
Um,
probably, right?
yes, it's gonna hurt your industry a little, but it gives you a lot more stability, pro political power.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
I'm
I
good on
mean,
pause.
yeah, and stability is just very important. I mean, you want to get rid
Yeah,
of
I'm
the
only at
debuffs.
31 right now.
If you hover over, it'll tell you what your current debuffs are from low stability.
Yeah. Mostly hurting factory output and dockyard output.
Yeah, that's not
A little
good.
bit of political power too.
Oh yeah, and improving your stability is especially cost effective for you because you have only like right now, like if you do improve working conditions, you're only paying off based on your current number of factories, but you're gonna eventually conquer all of Central America and into like
Oh,
Colombia
right.
and stuff. So you're gonna have a
Yeah.
lot more factories. One of the times to improve working conditions is really cost effective is right before you expand like crazy, and then you gain the benefits of higher stability on all that factories, but you only paid the price based on the number of factories you had when you took the decision.
So, because of rural infrastructure, should I cancel some of my infrastructure in Veracruz and Jalisco?
I did suggest reducing Veracruz so it'll only go up to level 4 because you'll get one level from the
Okay.
Pocus. Jalisco, I wouldn't because after you do the Sonora factory, you probably want to just finish the infrastructure 5 and fill Jalisco up with factories. It's going to be a while till you do rural infrastructure because
Okay.
you really need to get the worker militias and
All right.
I mean there are a couple reasons for that. The recruitable population is nice, but the ticking communism support will help you in the long run. In the short run, you can do anti-communist raids to prevent it from getting too out of hand. So,
I don't know if I have the political power for
oh,
that.
well, at least the rent freeze, which gives you stability, and then
Although I can from time to time. It's just
yeah,
I have to save up for civilian economy as well as my captain of industry. Plus, I got to get my
yeah.
stability up. Well, I guess the raids do that as well.
Yeah. A little bit. Yeah. Let's see. You can do the rent freeze and then guarantee as soon as war economy becomes available, you have some political power probably from that. You could do Zifo on industrial promotion. That would get you 2 more Civ factories. Since your factory count still isn't that high, especially once I cancel these licenses. That might be useful after rent freeze.
Yeah. Law on industrial promotion.
Yeah, Zifo on industrial promotion. Zifo itself isn't that more useful. It's just a couple electronics research boosts. But law and
Yeah.
industrial promotion is really nice. Uh, people keep buying my overpriced equipment. Well, I'm gonna put some more up for sale. They literally just bought out all the rifles I was selling. It looks like. I think, or maybe that's because I offered you a discount version. Didn't? Oh, Venezuela was buying convoys. Convoys. I still have 62 for sale. Right, I need to put some overpriced rifles for sale so the AI will buy them. Hold on. Let me show you some more. How close are you to finishing that factory in Sonora?
80%.
Oh,
It'll be
yeah.
done in 20 days.
All right, yeah, I'll leave that one. As I say, once you're done with that, I probably should sell you some more rifles, some basic equipment, just so you can send to Spain. I'm assuming you run out of rifles again already by this point.
Oh no, I'm doing good. I've got 3,000.
Oh, oh wow. Well, you can also use it to train
They're
more.
mostly Springfields.
Yeah, you can
A
also
few Gowares, 600 Gowares. Where do I keep getting all these Gowares? Am I not being informed that Germany's sending me guns?
Guerreros.
Yeah, Gowares. Gewehr 98s.
No, it's probably some variant of something from. I know what it is. That's what the Mexican junta is producing. It's
Oh,
just a naming thing, but it's considering their rifles. It's defaulting. I think Germany has was the first nation ever added in the game back when they were like coding before even the first release.
yeah.
And so a lot of times, or maybe it was the UK, for a lot of times, for whatever reason, generics default to like instead of calling it basic infantry equipment, especially ones from civil wars, it'll call it the German or the
So,
British name for it.
so am
So
I just capturing
yes, that's
the
from equipment
the
capture.
Mexican?
Every
Ah,
every time
they've
you
got the
fight,
little German flag on it.
yeah, it's bugged. It might actually Germany might
That's
even
weird.
if they were land leasing equipment, they'd probably even be getting army experience off you. But they have to do a land lease.
Yeah,
Um, if they wanted
I
to send
don't
you,
think they are. They are
no.
not.
But if they were to start a land lease on you, they get equipment based on use of the Gavers that you currently had equipped. But
I'm
it's
just gonna
actually
pretend that they just have old Nazi guns for some reason.
the Mexican junta, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. They're producing. Maybe they're producing a licensed version of the German guns. It's
Yeah.
theoretically possible,
Hmm.
though I doubt it.
Weird. But yeah, I've got a few of those. But yeah, a bunch of Springfields to send. But all the fancy new ones are getting distributed.
Um, you
I just need more convoys, actually.
yeah.
Yeah, I just saw that I'm at 0 again.
You might want to queue up another division in training. They'll use the Gavers. I mean, they use the basic infantry equipment to train, and it's not
Okay.
like it doesn't matter if they have better or worse stuff in training, and when they're done, you can
Yeah.
eventually give them new stuff. So
All right.
yeah.
And could I get some convoys?
Oh yeah, shoot. I was gonna
How many
wait till
convoys
I've
do you have?
uh 572.
Not bad.
Yeah, I can definitely sell you some. I was gonna wait till you finish that factory in Sonora since it's so close, and I was gonna
Oh,
sell you more stuff,
we can do
guns and
that. That's
yeah,
probably more important.
yeah.
Probably more important I get this stuff built up. Cause I don't know, I'm not that worried about Army XP anymore now that I've got 3 whole doctrines through, and I haven't even fought any wars yet.
Well, you can also use it for uh your mountain special forces doctrine,
Oh
which
yeah,
is probably
should I buy theater training yet?
theater training. Oh yeah, you didn't do that yet. Yeah, you should probably do that so your guy gets jungle rat faster from fighting in the jungle.
Okay.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so that when you recruit when you promote junior officers, they can become brilliant strategists sometimes. or inflexible strategists. Scale
So,
resupply.
did you want me to wait till I got this guy trained up to regular before I start fighting in the jungle?
To wait till he's trained up to regular before fighting in the jungle. Yeah.
Or should I have the other two fight while he's training?
No, I would wait till he's trained up to regular, because then you'll inflict a better. Well, how close is he done?
40%.
Yeah, you might send the other two and have them just so that.
It'll take 60 days for him to level up.
Yeah, just so the general gains more experience. I might manually order those two guys. I think if you order the general to attack, the one that's in training will try and attack too. But I might.
Can't, because he had to stop training.
Hmm?
He'd have to stop exercising anyway.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, you can manually order the two that are fully trained, and it'll get the general experience and also get the junior officers experience, which is the other thing. Like,
yeah,
every one of these,
helpful.
Yeah. In fact,
I
if you
saw
look
they're at 155 and 119 respectively.
Yeah, some of them are good to promote soon and see if they get brilliant strategists, and just build up a supply of those, because eventually you probably want to eventually at some point, like after you have a bunch of brilliant strategists, switch their training for meticulous preparation or aggressive assault or something, so that like when you have a bunch of level 1 guys, you can level up quickly and try and roll the extra stat points, and then you know
Yeah.
Army XP can be used for that. Can be used for mounted special forces, and can also be used to improve designs of like mechanized. That's probably the most important thing you can use it for: tank designs and mechanized designs.
Oh, I got to spend my command power on something. I got 95.
Have you promoted all your generals to field marshal?
Yep.
Um. Hmm. Yeah.
Gonna be full. Well, it's not full yet. It's
How much Navy XP do you have, by the way?
389.
Okay. And how close are you to Marines 1?
18 days.
Oh yeah, you'll get that before you hit the cap. I was gonna say, I was thinking for a second about taking a Navy Academy spirit and then recruiting some admirals, but that's a very low priority right now. You need your army is your main. You might want to. Your cap is 120, right?
Yep.
You might
So
want
I've
to
got a month.
keep an eye on that, and before it hits the cap, promote one of the junior officers who's fighting in the jungle right now. I assume those are the most experienced ones, but you might as well wait a little longer so they get a little more experience from the jungle fighting. So.
Okay.
Yeah, because the more experience they have, the less they'll need to gain before they level up. So you can very quickly just have them do a little fighting, reach level 2, see if they rolled extra stat points from Spirit Academy. It's a long-term investment because you probably don't want to switch to meticulous preparation until you have like 6 or 7 guys with brilliant strategists or something. And then you level a whole bunch of them to level 2, and then you take the 3 who got the extra stat points and train them up further. Maybe then only. I mean, you can't be too picky. You don't have a limited time to build up your army. But yeah, you probably can do at least that. Ah, London in Flames is playing for some reason. Wonder why. I've never heard this song before. Something must have happened to trigger it somehow.
Hmm.
Denmark is buying one fighter off of me. They looked at my fighters and they said, apparently we want a fighter. We just, how many? One. I kid you not. They're
Just to
buying,
take it for a joyride.
well, I mean, it'll go into their existing air wing. So they probably already have
Yeah.
like,
Right.
50 fighters and they'll just grow their air wing by one. I'm just surprised the AI would bother with such a small purchase.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a lot of fuel. I can probably start naval exercises, right?
Yeah, you're not at your fuel cap yet, are
I
you?
got 37K. No, I got 78 days till I'm at my fuel cap.
Hmm. But yeah, you probably could set the task force. It's probably considered to be doing repairing. So to get them to exercise, you probably need to activate you exercises, then cancel or actually probably just cancel repairs on the current.
Why don't I just finish repairing them?
Because you probably need those dockyards producing convoys and working on that one capital ship. Um,
Okay.
but what you can do is by the way, if you're working you're working on the capital ship. You're at -2 steel. I'm assuming, right?
No, I'm breaking even.
Oh, weird. I thought you'd be -2. Maybe. How much does it cost to do this capital ship? I
4.
thought 4. Oh, you must have gotten something that improved steel production.
Yeah, I have no idea what.
Um, but yeah. Uh, but yeah, you can have you can probably like if you look at the ones that are currently queued up for repairs, are any of them like super badly damaged?
No, they're at like 70%, I think.
Yeah, so you could
Yeah, 79%.
so what you can do is hit cancel repairs like on the Navy.
Wait, repairing 79% means it's at 79% health, right?
Yes.
Not
Yes.
that it's 79% of. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it actually gains health every hour when repairs are underway. You can actually, even if
Okay.
you really wanted, turn the repairs up to like all your dockyards at the beginning of the day and cancel it just before the end, and it's cheating. Obviously, it's an exploit, but
Yeah.
but yeah, technically repair something without ever using a dockyard on it because the production only at the end of the day, it's not per hour, but the
Just takes a lot of micro.
ridiculous amounts of micro, and it's very much
Yeah.
a cheating. But yeah, not that we're not kind of breaking the game mechanics of my buying licenses just so you can, but that's technically, I mean, buying licenses is a technically perfectly legit thing. It's just the fact that you're using them to buy equipment back from me is kind of weird.
Yeah.
But it's incredibly cost ineffective, so it's really just a very
Yeah, it's a
expensive.
little cheesy, but it's not really
It's not really
an
cheating,
exploit, really.
and in fact, there's a huge penalty for doing it. It's not like it's unbalanced.
Yeah.
Like basically burning money to do this. So, um, like the amount of equipment you get versus how many Civ are like just
It'd be
removed from
nice
the game.
if consumer goods factories at least like improve stability or something. But like with the way it works, it just doesn't matter if you feed your people's toasters. It just doesn't affect anything at all.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they barely can like have clothes or if they like you have 1,000 factors in consumer goods and
Yeah,
they're
it doesn't
living
matter
hell.
what quality of life they have.
Yeah, it's dumb. Um,
Be nice if it did something.
it might be considered to be like those are the wages for government workers, and like the rest of your people are still getting stuff that's
Yeah.
just they're not being paid out of the government budget. I don't know. There could be
I don't
ways
know.
you could explain it away, but it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Or if your consumer goods base need was just based in some way on like the size of your population instead of the
Yeah,
size of your industrial base, um, that would be more
but I
realistic. And
guess I guess we're getting into Victoria territory at that
you're
point.
getting the territory of really poor countries staying poor forever, and compared to rich countries,
Oh yeah,
which have very little would have very little assigned to consumer goods, and the devs didn't want that, even though that's how the world actually works.
yeah,
The
wouldn't be
need
very fun.
Your people's needs not based on how many factories you have; they're based on how many people you have and how
Yeah,
what your people might expect more if they're all employed and making high wages. But there's ways you can like have super high wages and super low quality of living, like if prices are sky high. If you could even do an inverse price fixing where the government maybe owns the industries and charges insane prices for stuff, um, and puts import tariffs on foreign goods on top of that. There's kind of like the world we're starting to have, where a handful of billionaires own all the industries, engage in price fixing agreements with each other because they do. They've been caught doing it many times, and then
yeah,
the government puts import tariffs on foreign goods on top of that. So everything is really expensive, and people have, you know, very low, like lower standards of living, or at least their standard of living doesn't go up, so that resources can be diverted to bombing more people. Hey, hold on a second. That
yeah.
sounds an awful lot like what's happening. No, yeah, so uh, I mean that I was describing what was happening, but I can imagine you could describe in Hearts Iron 4 something kind of like that, and then oh wait, that's the world we live in. Uh, and I'm kind of loopy here. It's been up a while. Haven't rested. Uh, let's see. So you're almost done on that factor, right? I forget what we even. I just got
Um, yes, almost. The 18th, it'll be done.
July 18th
No, June.
or June 18th. Sorry, why did I say
Yep,
July?
just a week.
Hold on.
You gain experience faster from fighting or exercising.
The troops.
Yeah,
Not
troops.
sure, but they'll definitely suffer more casualties if they're fighting. Um,
Okay,
and the
so it's riskier anyway.
enemy is smart enough to target the less experienced troops. Like their attacks will tend to fall in divisions with lower
Uh,
breakthrough, so you will suffer more losses. Although you'll deal more damage because you have more men in combat, so it's just more intense combat with higher casualties on both sides.
yeah.
The KD ratio may actually be more in your advantage, but -6 chromium all of a sudden. Uh, okay, I gotta increase chromium purchase from the Soviet Union here.
Oh, you know what?
What?
Yeah, I saved that extra to steel, extra to steel because I finished the destroyer before I switched it to the bombardment.
Oh yeah, and
So that freed up. Yeah,
convoys cost less steel than destroyers. That's right. So
yeah, yeah. I saved 2 steel from finishing the destroyer before starting the shore bombardment.
yeah, all right, checks.
So that explains it. Okay. I was trying to figure out where that 2 steel came from, but yeah, I figured it out.
It's just queuing up some more factories and dockyards. I'm just going crazy with naval production here because if I end up at war with the UK, I really want to just be able to sink the British Navy without losing a ton of ships.
Yeah.
So yeah, and as long as I can keep enemy ships at bay, the only real threat is Canada, and I mean they don't have that big an army, so Canada's not really that big a threat, no matter what they do. Um, Especially since they're declared independence in the UK, so they're no longer have a faction, they no longer have an overlord. It's just their army that they would have to manage, which is not much of a threat. And that's only if they go their Trotskyite path, and I'm not in a faction with them. A lot of ifs there. Hold on, just calculating something. 12 times 560 versus 15,575. What? Should be the same. It should be 4 days. Oh, it is 4. Okay. Yeah, I got a little microing with reassigning factors in a sec, but new tech. Cool. Um, so yeah, you're getting very close in that factory, and then you can buy some more. Oh yeah, you you added a new division to training, right? How many do you have in training right now?
3.
3.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, you might throw one more in since you have all those
Uh,
rifles.
I keep losing weapon shipments.
How many convoys do you have left?
To I just finished anti-communist raids.
Do you have enough political power to do another set, or
I'm at 69 political power. Oh, you know what? Actually, it looks like they're floating at 0 because due to the changes in other parties, they're losing 0.2.
yeah?
So, actually, I might need to do anti-democratic grades. But because it looks like they're pulling just as much from non-aligned as they are communists, the Democrats. I'm actually at 30% Democratic now.
Communists are still the larger group, so you'll drive more into non-aligned if you do anti-communist.
Yeah, I'm actually. What happens if they get 60% Democratic?
They won't. They should stabilize at about 45%, just like communist. Of
Okay,
course, you'll have at
because
that
I
point.
am
Well, actually,
scared women's suffrage is going to destroy me.
it will not. And
Because
actually,
I can't. It's 0.3. So when I suppress them, they still grow.
yeah, until they get
So I
bigger,
might.
their growth slows down the bigger they are. So,
Okay.
because the positive factors get scaled down, the the higher their existing size is. So eventually, what would happen if you did nothing is you would end up at 50% communist, 50% democratic, 0% everything else.
Uh, okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's. I think it's 60%. You could get an event maybe at 50, just over 50 for one of them, but you might not actually have to deal with any revolt things until you do worker militias.
Because there's liberal revolutions, right?
Yeah, color revolutions
Yeah.
is what the game calls it. Uh,
Yeah, that's the historical.
yeah. How much political power do you have saved up?
69.
Yeah, that's a little bit. You finished Rent Freeze already, or you're working on it?
Working on it.
Yeah, you'll
Got
have.
50 days on it.
Um, hmm. Yeah,
Oh, the ambitious union boss will help when I flip communist.
yeah, it'll give you communist support when you flip communist.
Yeah, that should
Uh,
even it out.
yeah, I mean, when you've done the worker militias and the union boss, you'll stabilize it like 70% communist, 30% democratic. But
Cool.
women's suffrage comes at a permanent stability cost, basically, but you do get research speed for it, so
Yeah.
it's not that much stability lost, and the research speed is really nice for Mexico with how behind you are. And it
And I
does.
did just need to strengthen the church. So it was
Mhm.
helpful to do that.
What about strengthening the church?
It did that as well,
Oh yeah, women.
which was
Yeah,
handy.
women's suffrage. You need it at that moment. I was like, did you?
Yeah.
Um,
I don't need it right now. But yeah, do you think I should wait just a little bit longer to hire the industrialist? Or sorry, yeah, captain of industry? Or should I just immediately restart the raids?
um, what I would do actually, I'm thinking about this political
Actually, I don't
power.
know if I need to do the raids because again, they're not growing.
Um,
It's only the Dems that are growing.
yeah, what the raids were doing partly is they were causing the communist faction to shrink a little bit. Some of that was going to Democratic, and some was going to non-aligned, or at least it was reducing the rate that non-aligned went down at. Because yeah,
Yeah.
non-aligned kept going down, so it was just slowing the rate at which you were bleeding stability. It wasn't actually directly, but it was keeping a ruling party popularity from falling as quickly as it otherwise would have. And anti-communist raids would do more to help that than anti-democratic, because anti-democratic will drive support into communism, which will start growing again if you do that. Um, yeah, I was thinking about this. You might actually want to transfer lands to the church now, because when you do worker militias, it'll weaken the church again,
Oh
and
yeah.
you're eventually
Right.
gonna do that. And you don't want to be an atheist state after your civil war is over. And
Hmm.
you also probably want to do Bolivarian alliance someday, which will also weaken the church. So you need to, if you want to avoid a Cristero war, you'll need to strengthen the
Yeah.
church two more times in total, which you don't ever have to do more than that if you want to stay at Weight Church. But I don't think you have any more focuses to strengthen them. So yeah, you might transfer lands to church. It
I might get
will,
an event at some point.
yeah, you will eventually. That's right. But you might do it now to get assertive church instead of weak church, which will increase
I
improve.
will lose the ability to prosecute clergymen and assassinate Cristeros if I do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And although
And I haven't
hmm,
rewritten the Constitution yet.
you might just you can do the rewrite it anytime. Oh, but you probably could do
Oh,
is
and I can't be at assertive church either, so it would have to go all the way up to powerful
in order
to
to
for that. Yeah,
get the decisions associated with rewriting the Constitution.
I have the decisions. I just can't do them.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. In order to do the decisions, you have to be at powerful church and rewrite the Constitution in order to attend public mass or pardon Cristero fighters.
Yeah, I have to be a powerful church or Catholic state to
Yeah.
make the decisions.
Yeah, and you also have to rewrite the Constitution. There's a focus requirement as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but yeah, you don't necessarily need to have. It was more anti-establishmentarianism, so that you could
yeah.
strengthen the
Transfer
church to
lands.
avoid atheists. Yeah. Um, But yeah, you might actually you need stability. The raids are becoming less and less cost effective as your ruling party popularity dips further. You might just prosecute clergymen now for the 3% stability that gives.
I don't want to transfer lands to the church next.
That will prevent you from prosecuting clergymen. So you might prosecute
Oh, you're right.
clergymen, and then you can actually be an atheist state during your civil war. You just have to rise above it before the civil war ends.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah,
Okay.
and you'll get a lump of political power with the rent freeze, so you can
That's true.
yeah, you how much do you need to prosecute the clergyman? 75, right?
Yes.
So when you get up to 75, you can take that. You're at 67, you said?
69.
69. So you're very close. Okay.
Yep.
Um all right, so what was I doing? There was something I was watching like a hawk. Oh, finished that. Okay. I'll pause. Oh, I'm about to finish attack, but I already know what I'm going to do next for that, so that's not going to require a very long pause here. Just growing my infantry MIO. Springfield Armory, so you can get better rifles. Um, yeah, so the technical ways work is once democracy support gets high enough that its growth rate reduces, it'll put less pressure on the communist support, which will lead to communist support increasing again, and they'll just both keep like taking turns growing until they're both at
Uh,
50%. Yeah,
so
because
I don't have
each
to worry about revolutions.
as long as you don't do anything to change the balance of power between the two, probably not. Once you
Okay.
take worker militias, you'll have to worry about a communist revolution. Or
Right.
if you take the ambitious union boss, either one
But
will.
once I take worker militias, I'm only 70 years away from, flipping.
Yeah, as long as you don't like grab the mistake that the guy was doing the U.S. Mexico thing with before is that he grabbed the ambitious union boss extremely early,
Yeah.
and that led to him getting a communist revolution 10 days before he finished. Um,
All right, I can prosecute clergymen now. And I have. Oh, yeah, I finished Marines 1. So should I immediately start researching support equipment? Or was there
I think
something else
um,
you thought I should do?
that was saving up for ahead of time for better. Or wait, you don't have improved infantry equipment one yet, do you?
Nope, not yet.
Yeah, and that's a prerequisite. How many days would it take you to tech that?
147.
Okay, yeah, so it'd be almost 1939 when you finished,
Should I grab
and
that?
um, yeah, and because
Oh, 135. I have a MIO. Sorry. I'll start working on that.
yeah, and then after that's done, the infantry equipment too is probably a little less important than the industry techs for you, like the 1939 ones. But so the next thing is you probably save up to
I
start
have
grabbing.
421 Navy experience now.
Now that you finished
Should I?
infantry,
Yeah. Should I dump it all into Marines?
oh yeah, now you can take the
All right.
tree.
Elevate the Marine Corps.
Yep.
Jungle specialists. Yeah, jungle specialists for sure. Grueling training regimen. And then expeditionary units, you said? Hello?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Especially because that'll make air support more cost effective.
And then
I mean, well, more
I can just buy the
effective.
entire tree out. Is that what I want to do?
Blowtorch and corkscrew make sure marmot better. So yeah, we definitely grab that. And the very last
And
one,
then expeditionary task forces.
expeditionary task forces will make Marines a little better with support artillery if you wanted to add actual Marines to some of your divisions instead of just the Pioneers. Let's see, are there any rivers you have to cross moving south? Yeah, there is that one in Colombia, that really tough one. Yeah, so you'll eventually want expeditionary. I mean, so not the last one. What's? I haven't taken it myself because it's not immediately. You can put
Sorry,
off.
what?
You can put off expeditionary task forces if you haven't done it yet.
I've got
Uh,
120 Navy experience.
uh, yeah.
What do
There's
you
all.
recommend I buy?
Oh, you have exactly 120.
E121.
Oh, you don't have any Navy doctrine yet, do you?
No, I have one.
Trade interdiction, I'm guessing, right?
Yep,
Do
I
you
have
have
trade interdiction.
do you have convoy warfare yet?
No,
Uh,
convoy interdiction.
no, I'm referring to the Spirit of the Naval Academy. Convoy warfare is.
Oh, no, not yet.
Hmm. If you're worried about like eventually overflowing the Navy cap, you can grab that now. Because you're probably eventually gonna want to promote admirals, and that will allow you to get ones that are Seawolf right off the bat. To try and roll ones, you eventually want to try and roll ones who are Seawolf because that enables some of the traits like Lancer. Um, It enables Lancer and that enables Loading Drill Master, which are both very useful even for destroyers or Torpedo
Yeah.
Expert. So, yeah, I would. I would grab Convoy under the Spirit of the Naval Academy. You know what I'm referring to, right? Below.
Yep. Convoy warfare. Warfare. I see it.
Yeah, and just because you're gonna want it eventually, you might as well just sink the Navy XP into it now. I guess if because you getting Navy experience like crazy and you don't want to like overflow the cap, but
Yeah.
you have the ships on exercises now, right?
Yep.
Oh, I would select that
Doing 3 a
task
day.
force and set the repair priority back to medium because it sets to never repair when you cancel repairs.
Ah. Okay.
Yeah, it's stupid, and people have even made comics making fun of it. And you just want
Hmm.
them to stop repairing this one time, and instead they'll instead they'll never ever repair ever.
Yeah.
uh, you may also need to turn back on automatic detachment. I don't know if that's disabled.
It's on.
Um,
And my 101 political or Navy experience.
yeah, that you can just save up for tech boosts because you're gonna get those eventually, and I doubt you're gonna.
Okay.
Uh,
Cool.
right, I was just promoting one of my generals to field marshal. Hopefully that doesn't hurt his logistics skill enough to cause supply issues here. All right, and I'm just saving up for 30 days before I do an industry tech ahead of time, I think. Um, such a large industrial base. Or, yeah, probably. No, I don't have Shoot, I don't have anti-tank.
So our
Ones.
organization first and charismatic bad traits.
They're useful on the field marshals, just not on the generals. Like, they're useful on the
So
people who are acting, who are in charge of army groups, but they do
so
nothing.
Calez,
I wouldn't do it on
he's
Callus
my. Oh, okay.
because at some point you probably want to swap him into directly leading troops, so he'll gain experience faster.
Right.
I mean, for now he's really good, but at some point you'll have someone else who's gained enough experience to be, swap into the field marshal role while
Yeah.
he actually directly leads men. Maybe when you push into Central America or something, because he's your chief of the army, right?
Calez is
Or no, is he your chief of the army?
available advisor role.
Oh, he doesn't have an advisor
That's all
role.
it says under officer corps.
Oh yeah. Oh, he doesn't have an officer role assigned yet. But
I guess not.
I forget. Is one you have one of your guys is already an infantry expert advisor role, right?
Um. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, someday Callis might become an advisor. You might use him for. He's already like 4 skill, right?
Yeah.
So he always has to sculpt. He can already be a specialist, but he always has to sculpt twice to be an expert in something. Good choices might
Chief
be.
of army entrenchment.
Oh yeah, that's right, because he's already got defensive doctrine. Yeah, you may eventually have him do
I can
that.
give him that right now.
You probably want to use the command power for other things, but someday you'll want him to lead
Okay.
troops so he can actually get that in reasonable time. As a field marshal, he gains
He
experience.
has defensive doctrine.
Yeah, which is what enables him to be chief of.
Did he start with that?
No, you assigned him it so that as
Oh,
a um as a
I forgot.
it lets your divisions entrench better, but someday you'll want him to directly in so he can get to skill 8 quicker, and you'll probably want to make him your chief of the army someday as an entrenchment guy, but not yet. I mean, you
Okay.
already have a chief of the army, and he has defense, which is better for attacking with infantry, whereas entrenchment is actually better for defending. Um, right now, you're mostly on the offensive, and when you push in Central America, but at some point, you'll have a lot of coastline to defend, like an insane amount, and you'll face someone who has an actual navy. So, and
Yeah.
that'll be useful for that. Or if you're pushing into Brazil and you're holding some parts of the line and pushing in other places, Brazil is a really tough opponent for you. Uh, may be easier if you have like the help of Venezuela or something when you do that. By then, Bulgarian alliance will probably let you ally with Venezuela, and actually you can ally with Brazil and use them to conquer other countries, and then turn on Brazil at that point, and still have the help of everyone else who you conquered and Venezuela.
Yeah.
So yeah, or turn on Venezuela first and then Brazil. It doesn't matter which order, but you probably want to conquer them all eventually. You have how much command power? 40?
No. 111.
111. Oh geez. Junior officers. That's right. That's right. Junior officers. Um, you're you're still attacking that jungle, right?
Yep.
How how experienced are your junior officers now?
179 and 144.
179 and 144. So 200 is the threshold for level 2. So you probably want to promote them before that so that they can later you can feed them through the spirits of the academy that give them skill points and just build up like a stockpile of brilliant strategists.
Should I
Somewhat
promote him now then?
uh
Because he's at 179. That's pretty close.
uh 179 is pretty close. That's true. Yeah, I might wait a couple more days since they're actively in combat and they're still getting more experience. but you're gonna have to do it very soon.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll pause it here. Not make you wait. Uh, hmm. Oh, how much command power do you have now? I don't want you to overflow your cap.
114.
Oh, you 114. Okay, cool. I was worried for a second. I'm like, what if I'm sitting here and having it on
Oh,
pause?
he's at 186. I should
Yeah,
probably promote him. 187.
I get as
Well, what
close to
number should I promote him at?
like 194 or something. As long as he doesn't hit 200, you're good.
Okay.
Uh, you. Oh yeah, how close are you to Sonora on that factory? The first of
Oh,
two?
should be done now. Yeah. It's switched over to the next one. The
Cool.
second one.
Which has like very little progress, right?
Yeah, like 10%.
Okay, yeah. Let me sell you some convoys then.
Okay.
I'm gonna sell you a dozen
Should I
convoys.
cancel the other contract so that that can be redone? Or should we just keep paying out? Because it's pretty slow. I only assigned 2 factories to it.
The other one to buy convoys, you mean?
Yeah, the one where I'm buying 12.
No, I would buy these in addition to that. This
Okay.
is another 12 to try and, I mean, that one's already part way through accumulating the
Yeah, I was saying we
delivery.
could just merge them. But
Uh,
yeah, I guess you're right.
yeah, it would cancel an ongoing delivery, and you'd have to wait even longer till you could send more rifles. This is just trying to, yeah, I mean, effectively, you're getting him at double speed for a while, and then once the other one finishes, you're still getting him at half the speed you were before. So you get 3 convoys in the next delivery, but it alternates between 2 and 3 each time. So the next two are 2.
What's a good number of factories to assign
I
for
would
a total
assign
cost of 1260?
I would just assign everything, like all your remaining. You have like 3 factories, right?
I got a bunch.
How many factories do you have?
14?
14.
Yep.
I would 6 factories then. And let me put up some rifles then for the other. Probably get you some M1s that are on a discount because all right, I put up 2,000 discounted M1 Garans as well. You can grab.
Okay.
Cool. And then I'm gonna put up some more for the AI. high prices instead of low. Yeah, the AI buying my overpriced stuff is part of what's making it affordable for me to sell you the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and
The civilian factories have been disrupted.
huh?
Oh, I think I assigned too many factories, so now it's just not.
What's been disrupted? Oh no, that's because it
They're
has
not
an
fulfilling.
it has
Oh, does
to
it have to unpause?
yeah it has to unpause and a
Okay.
day has to tick over. It does
Oh,
think you're
I'm
one fat.
still one. Yeah, I am one short, and it canceled the oil. Shoot.
Oh,
Yeah, I. It's stupid because when you start one, it lets you assign, like you can assign all the factories you have to two things. It doesn't stop you
hmm.
from assigning
Oh yeah,
directs.
because the other thing
So
hadn't been
yeah,
approved yet, so there was a possibility that I would
yeah,
reject it. And you can make
mm-hmm,
multiple offers, and I mean that can be
yeah,
useful in like a more competitive multiplayer where you may offer like a bunch of deals to someone and only take the ones they want to sell you. They don't have auto
yeah,
accept on. Yeah, well, so
I
you're
guess.
it's technically an inefficient thing, but you're still putting 9 into it, so eh, whatever. Um, and
Mm.
when the one of the other contracts ends, you should be get the 10th. It should like
Yeah,
yeah. How much command power you got?
118. Oh yeah, I should go
Yeah,
back to.
you should probably
He's at
promote that.
190.
Oh yeah, good time to promote, and maybe if you're lucky, he'll get a good personality trait too. There are a couple ones they're useful, like career
He is
officer.
career officer and reckless.
Oh, and is that all? Yes.
Yep.
So he didn't roll brilliant strategist, but he is a career officer, which is good. I was literally just saying career officer is a good one, and reckless is good and bad. Faster planning is definitely an advantage, but getting injured more often is,
Yeah,
a problem.
not good.
So, uh, I mean, on average, it's probably better to have a reckless leader than not if you have enough generals
Oh,
to
he's got an
replace him.
infantry leader now.
He who does? Oh, one of your generals.
The guy leading the south.
Oh, he acquired the infantry leader trait.
Yep.
Cool.
And he's 74% of the way towards jungle rat, 71% towards engineer.
You can give him infantry expert now, or whatever the one that gives division infantry extra attack. Since he's probably
Infantry
the
expert?
yeah, because he's probably the guy you use to like root out the roughest resistance in the jungles, because he'll get jungle rat, and if he's an infantry expert and a jungle rat, he'd be good with attacking into jungles with
Yeah.
infantry. So,
Okay.
and for that matter, defending in them. Ambusher is a little better on defense, but infantry expert still helps with it. Um,
Yeah.
Ambusher gives 10% attack and defense, and then that gets multiplied by like defensive doctrine. So under a defensive doctrine field marshal, it's 13% attack and defense, whereas infantry expert is only 13% attack. And there's also a intel bonus, a recon bonus you get when entrenched with ambusher generals. So ambusher is purely defensive. It also applies to non-infantry units like tanks
Did
and
I call off
artillery.
this attack now, by the way?
Actually,
They're
artillery count as
completely
infantry.
exhausted their planning bonuses, and they'll win in 2 weeks if they keep fighting.
Yeah, yeah, I would call it off. It was just for, I mean, it was partly for training the general and the junior
Yeah.
officers. So the reckless career officer is pretty good. And actually, with reckless field marshals get injured at much lower rates than generals. So if he becomes a field marshal someday, all the divisions under him will still plan faster, and he's not likely to get injured most of the time. Because field
Cool.
marshals are like, I guess they're further removed from the front, so their
Yeah.
injury chance is much lower, or at least half. It's probably is half the rate, just like they gain experience at half the rate for leading an army group instead of an army.
Yeah.
Um, but it's low enough that I mean injury is pretty rare to begin with. Even with a reckless leader, it's really rare with a reckless field marshal. So, uh, yeah, I'll unpause it. Um, but he's gaining experience in engineer, organizer, and I'm guessing trickster, right?
Organizer. Oh, no trickster at all, actually.
He
Hmm.
might just not have enough that shows up on him yet. If you go to his, because he should be concerned to be flanking the enemy if he's attacking from two directions. You gain trickster experience from either flanking or being flanked.
Um,
If you click on his portrait,
0 out of 500.
huh, weird. Maybe flanking is not technically like maybe you have to attack from like more than I don't know. I don't know what's considered
Hmm.
flanking precisely for trickster. It's kind of sometimes hitting him from two provinces counts and sometimes it doesn't. So weird.
Maybe they have to be more spread out.
Yeah, maybe it's like more than a 90-degree angle apart or something like
Yeah.
that. Who knows? Um, but yeah. So
But yeah, organizer, engineer, and jungle rat. He's working on. He's fifty
yeah,
percent towards organizer.
that's a really good one because then they can become a thorough planner if they're going to become a field marshal, or a logistics wizard if they're going to remain a general. Which his case, you probably want the logistics wizard because even though they won't get the supply consumption reduction as a direct leader, they will be able to take the extra supplies active ability. In fact, that's in some ways more useful for a general than a field marshal. That's for a direct army leader instead of an army group leader because if someone's in charge of army group, you have to give the whole army group extra supplies. But often you just
Uh,
have one army in the area that has the lowest supplies that you want to give the extra supplies, so it's more efficient in command power.
Uruguay. Oh, they're going fascist.
Huh?
They have a mission tree? Uruguay?
Focus tree? Yeah.
Yeah, focus tree.
Oh no, they're not fascist influence. No, they just when they take certain industrial focuses, the idea is that
Oh,
the Nazis are subsidizing. Of course, Germany is communist, so it should give them
yeah.
communist influence instead of fascist influence. But it's basically in a historical game, they take those focuses and Nazi. What that represented was Nazi investment in certain parts of the Uruguayan
Mm.
economy, because the Nazis got very involved in Uruguay and Argentina. That's why, like,
Oh, yeah.
the stereotype of Nazis fleeing to Argentina, it's because they like were investing in those countries and building influence, and so there was a trying to build fascist support in those areas. Uh,
Mm.
yeah, there is a three election possibilities when they have their election, and one of them does turn them fascist and have them join the Axis. The other two are like non-aligned or democratic or something,
Who
declaring
they
it.
elect this time? Non aligned?
You won't find out until the election happens. He's
I
announced
didn't it
the.
just happen?
That was just announcing the election.
Oh, I
I think
see. Okay.
the election. I don't know how long between the event and when the election actually occurs, but
Okay.
he's just announcing
Cool.
that there's going to be an election. So
All right.
yeah, I think it's 2 weeks. What I think actually happens is
Oh,
they get an event pop up, and then they choose who wins the election, and
yeah.
they can wait up to 2 weeks to make a choice, and they often do. Uh oh
I just realized I'm slowly losing fuel now.
oh, because of the
I
naval
forgot I
officers.
lost the oil. Yeah. No, because I lost the oil.
Yeah, and because I'm saying, but you're consuming it on the naval
Well, yeah,
exercises.
that too.
Yeah. Um. Oh, out of curiosity, so you got the ships, and I guess none are any of them. Did they go back in port for repairs, or none of them are damaged enough for medium repair priority? Probably.
I don't think any of them are damaged enough.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I say high, like one of them was at like 80% health, and at high repair priority, that would send them in
Yeah,
back.
they're only at 79. They're fine.
Yeah. Medium will make sure that they don't. If you set them to never repair on exercises, they can literally exercise until they sink, which is bad.
Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh no.
it's considered to having been sunk by naval accidents is how it shows up. But
Spanish directory's doing a little too good.
oh yeah, they've reconnected their capital with the Northwest, or
Yeah.
they moved their capital
It,
to the
oh, they
Northwest.
lost. I think they might have lost Sevilla for a
Yeah,
second.
they must have, and then that
Yeah.
eliminated their supply. Problem was most of their divisions are cost and supply. So once their
Mhm.
capital moved to La Coruna, suddenly they had supply, and then they started pushing everywhere.
Yeah.
It was their lack
That's
of
not good.
supply that was preventing them from pushing.
I really want to send some volunteers.
I mean, you're not the only country that can send them. There should be other countries that have or will send volunteers. Um,
Just the Soviets
just the Soviets so far. No one
that I
else
can
is.
see. Well, the Italians are supporting the nationalists, and the
Uh,
Portuguese are supporting the
I
monarchists.
know that
So,
Germany has a focus to send volunteers.
oh,
Intervene in
yeah.
Spain.
Hopefully they take it.
Uh,
Master Impact. What?
oh, what are you looking at? Master Impact.
The Politburo?
Civil liberties. Master
What's
Impact.
they have -1? The
That
Germans have -1 Master Impact.
minus point. Oh, they already took
Minus
civil
point one.
liberties. Oh, okay, yeah,
What is that?
that's from the civil liberties focus. It means that if they have a puppet, the puppet gains 0.1%, uh, or zero point 0.1 autonomy every day.
Oh,
Master impact is autonomy effects on the puppet.
I see.
So like Stalin has a plus zero point 0.1, which means his puppets slowly lose autonomy if they don't do anything to increase it. Uh,
Mhm.
the Spartacus League is the exact opposite. Their puppets slowly gain autonomy, which is to represent that they're taking a more lenient hand and they're, not like crushing their puppets underfoot. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a coincidence. It's attached to the civil liberties focus. So, I really got to stop assigning 10 dockyards to these cruisers only for them to. I keep forgetting to reduce it before they finish, and I'm losing industry to essentially overflow. Um, Whatever. Oh, too late. Spilt milk. Uh, hmm. At least when they start to get close, they should reduce it, like even vaguely. Do that. Yeah, down to 8. Uh, Probably want more than that though. Sorry, just queuing up a couple more torpedo cruisers here. I'm just producing the heck out of these things because, well, they're very good at sinking capital ships. Like a typical kind of slightly obsolete battleship that the U.S. can produce, the Colorado class, my best battleship. If it hits, it does 36 damage with its heavy attack, right?
Yeah.
And that actually has just barely enough armor to pierce another ship with the same armor level as it has, which is only the second level of battleship armor. It does less damage against something with better armor than that. Uh, if a torpedo cruiser hits, oh, and the thing costs 8,708 industry. The torpedo cruiser costs only 3,973, and if it hits that thing, it does 134.2
Jeez.
torpedo attack. It shows wrong on the hover over because it's not including the like bonus attack from special projects, but when the ship's actually built. Although actually no, there's a torpedo damage reduction from battleship armor, so 15% damage reduction. So actually it'd be more like 100 damage, but still. Um, if there were no screen ships involved in a head-to-head, the torpedo cruiser would beat the battleship, even though it costs less, and it's a screen
Yeah.
ship. So yeah, those things are nasty against capital ships, and then I just supplement them with ships that are designed to kill screen ships, and yeah,
What's a screening chip?
light cruiser or destroyer is a screen ship.
Hmm. What are they like? What's their role?
Destroyers are cheap ships that are good at escorting convoys or laying mines cheaply or mine
Yeah.
sweeping. The cheaper ones, the somewhat more advanced destroyers, usually when you get up to like 1940 tech level and 1944, especially, are ships that you might put a bunch of torpedoes on and they'll kill capital ships, kind of like the torpedo cruiser. But you need higher tech for that to really be viable because at the lower tech level, they're slower, they have more surface visibility, so they're also easier targets, and they have lower reliability, so it's more likely they'll suffer a crit and just eat shit if they
Yeah.
suffer a crit. Um, but the when you start to get to like 1940 and above tech levels, destroyers become pretty decent torpedo boats to sink capital ships. Light cruisers, are, on the other hand, are usually designed to kill destroyers and other light cruisers. So they can have a little bit of armor, which protect them against the guns of destroyers really well, and usually light cruisers that have a lower tech gun. So like a cruiser you built in 42 might have armor that's really good against a cruiser that was like 1936 tech levels or 1932, whatever the beginning early cruisers. Some of the ones that start off at the beginning of the game for like Britain and the US have a bunch of outdated cruisers already. And some of
Yeah.
those, or like some of the miners, might not have anything better, any better tech than that. Um, so yeah, light cruisers can, unlike destroyers, have some armor, and they can pack much bigger guns, much bigger light guns that are actually decent at killing destroyers pretty quick. And then they can also still have some torpedoes, which still gives them a bite against capital ships. And then heavy cruisers can also pack, I think, one torpedo race. So they still have a little bit of ability to use torpedoes, but they're also capital ships. So aircraft will tend to focus on them. So heavy cruisers are great for you give them a bunch of anti-air, and to protect the battleships and battle cruisers against aircraft. Because while the battleships and battle cruisers are weighted more than the heavy cruisers still will siphon off a decent number of aircraft. It's proportional to the HP. So a heavy cruiser will have like 180 HP, which means it has 180 weight, I think, to get selected. Whereas like battleship might have 385. So two heavy cruisers will have the same weighting as one battleship, making them a little less likely to be targeted relative to their costs. But you can heavy cruisers are faster than battleships or battle cruisers, so they'll dodge more hits. They have smaller targets, and so they're great for not being too easy to hit with heavy guns, although still easier in a destroyer. Uh,
Yeah.
Especially some of the more lightly armed heavy cruisers can be just as fast as a light cruiser, and so they're not the easiest targets for heavy guns, and they can soak up a lot of aircraft, so they can be good for anti-air platforms, or if you're a small, poor country, using them for your ships of the line because you can't afford battleships or battle cruisers. And battleships or
Yeah.
battle cruisers are the big, heavy guns. Battleships pack heavier armor, battle cruisers are harder to hit and thus less susceptible to torpedoes, as well as a little harder to hit with heavy guns. Um, and of course, battle cruisers are faster, so they don't slow down task force as much. So if you need a strike force to respond quickly to an area further away from port, you might want to use battle cruisers as the slowest, heaviest ship in a task force, even though they're less armored than the battleships. And then there's even
Okay.
super heavy battleships, which take the tendencies of battleships in terms of armor and armament to an extreme. And of course, the bigger the guns, the better shore bombardment, since it's proportional heavy attack, and like battleships and battle cruisers. Well, yeah, battle cruisers also have less armor, so they're cheaper than battleships. And if you're just doing shore bombardment, they can have guns that are just as big as battleships. So they make more cost-effective shore bombardment than battleships, the battle cruisers. And super heavies actually have the most cost-effective shore bombardment in the game because they get the most heavy attack per IC cost to build. So you put a few of those out. I think they most cost effective. If they aren't the most, they're very close, and they have tons of HP and armor as well. So, um,
So when should I start training Marines? And should I make any changes to my base Marine template? Or should
uh,
I add them to my existing design?
um, since you don't have a very high cap, the thing to do is if you're trying to cross rivers, you might add them to an existing design. But it's not Marines that you were doing the Special Forces Doctrine for. It's the Pioneers. They're the jungle specialists. That's a support
Oh,
company, and and
I
the
see. I see.
and Elevate the Marines also got you air superiority from expeditionary units and shore bombardment from Blowtorch and Corkscrew. And if you took expeditionary task forces, it does make the actual Marines a little better for amphibious assaults. I think I suggested saving the Navy XP and deferring that one, but I don't know if you took it or not. Did you complete the entire Marine tree or?
No, I didn't take expeditionary task forces yet.
Yeah. So that one would make the actual Marines better at fighting. But since you probably don't want to mess with actual Marines for a while, it's just all the
I see.
bonuses and the pioneers that were really useful for you. Uh,
Okay. But I don't get them until I research engineers, right? Engineer companies?
Pioneers? Oh no, you can probably add them to your templates right now. You can go and check. They should be available as a support
You
company.
sure?
I not 100%, um, but they are an alternative to engineers. They're an alternative variant of it, so they might be available without having tech engineers.
Hmm. I only see artillery and anti-air in support.
No pioneers available yet. Hmm.
No, not yet.
Then maybe you
So
do
I
have.
think I do need engineers. I feel like if they're an alternative, they're probably unlocked with the same tech.
Yeah, they must be.
Should I start researching support equipment in 7 days when radio is finished?
Yeah. Yeah, the darndest thing. It doesn't show pioneers available as a company yet. So it must be locked behind the engineer tech. I was hoping it wouldn't be because you don't have.
Yeah, I don't have it yet.
Yeah, or maybe it's unlocked behind the support equipment like tech. Maybe when you get
Yeah,
support
one or
equipment,
the other.
yeah, one or the other. So yeah, I guess you're gonna have to do support equipment and maybe engineers one in order to do
Yeah,
pioneers. Because pioneers are yeah they they give you your jungle better jungle combat, smaller terrain penalties from jungles
yeah.
when fighting in them. So
Am I gonna need trains at some point?
uh yeah, just
I take it I can just buy a couple.
yeah. I mean it's not worth producing when you probably only need a handful. Um,
Okay.
maybe someday. I mean, you're gonna get big someday, so you might eventually stick one factory on train production. But
Yeah.
for now, I can sell you some. I got a ton of excess ones. Like even though it might be less cost effective for me to replace them, I'm probably not going to be replacing any trains for a very long time because I have 255
Okay.
trains in my stockpile and I only need 74.
I don't need any yet. I
Yeah.
don't think.
Uh,
I'm not really sure I know what they do though.
they move supplies between your capital along your rail network to any supply hub or port that's connected by rail.
Does does that not happen by default?
If you don't have trains to do it, it won't happen.
So my entire rail network is doing literally nothing right now.
If you hover over logistics fulfillment, what does it say? Trains needed 0 and stockpile 0.
Yep.
It's probably because you have so few divisions in areas that are your core territory. They're just getting local supply. If you hover over them, what does it say?
Ah,
On the
okay.
supply view, what does it say they're getting their supplies from?
Um, supply from hubs in Veracruz, total 6. Supply from state in Veracruz, 2.0 or 2.10.
Huh, they are getting some from the hubs. Hmm.
From infrastructure, from population, from victory points.
They're getting some from the hub. It's probably. They really shouldn't be able to get any from the hub in Veracruz because the hub in Veracruz is connected by rail to Mexico City and you don't have any trains to actually move anything between Mexico City and Veracruz. That's weird. It might just be that such a short distance that requires like
So
zero
they
point 0.3 and it rounds down to 0 or something. It
demanded supply 0. Supply connection from capital 16.
demanded
Railway
0.
bottlenecks Mexico City to Veracruz from
Well,
level 2, 20.
huh, it says demanded 0, so that must mean that they're getting it all from local supply no matter.
Motorization level horse.
Yeah, that just improves the range of a supply hub if it has a rail
Ah,
or
okay.
or has ships. It allows supply to project further out from a hub that's already getting supply.
Maybe they're just using push
Uh,
the manual cars.
no. What it probably is your Mexico City hub is closer to the troops, your capital hub, than Veracruz. So
Oh yeah,
it's actually they should be getting from your capital supply hub. Uh,
the ones in Veracruz as well.
yeah, it may say that they're getting it from the Veracruz hub, but sometimes the game misrepresents which hub they're actually drawing from. What
Hmm.
it probably is in your capital hub doesn't need trains. Like that's where the supplies are produced. So as long as they're close to Mexico City, you don't need trains. But when you start needing to supply large numbers of divisions further from Mexico City, they should require trains.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean you're gonna need them eventually. For sure. In fact, uh, blimey,
What's up?
you. I was gonna say, in fact, you might want to queue up. I'm pretty sure when you get to like when you push beyond the territory that you own and start pushing to like up the coast, you're gonna need supply
Yeah.
hubs. I mean, I need supply. I'm pretty sure. I remember from the other U.S. Mexico game that the supply got really terrible in that jungle once going up just like one or
There's a hub
two
there.
provinces. Yes, but you won't have any way to to get supply to the hub until you
Oh,
control its capital because the rail now you
right.
see where the rails run. But what you
Mm-hmm.
can do is you can build a rail from Mexico City north into the or no, actually, what am I saying? Isn't that oh no, that doesn't connect. You can do it north, build it from Mexico City north into those plains, north of Mexico City, and then once you capture the province, you can connect the supply hub with just one more rail.
Oh,
Or you can wait till you capture the supply hub and just drag it too, and that's
just
actually
queue up
slight.
a. Hmm?
Yeah,
Is it faster to?
if you pre-build
Sorry, what were you saying?
the first half of the rail segment, then you won't have as
Yeah.
much construction left to do to connect
Okay.
the hub. So you could queue it up now and just stick at the bottom of your queue,
Yeah.
and then when you're getting ready to, yeah, it's not going to be that much longer though till you need to push. Yeah, actually, I might just put, you might actually stick it below the Sonora factory. You probably want to do it right after the Sonora factory.
Yeah. Not right
And
away because I'm not really building anything.
uh, the you aren't working on this on the factory in Sonora.
No, I'm all out of factories.
Oh yeah, then you might, yeah, you might stick it. Yeah, I would still stick it below the Sonora factory because
Okay.
then when some of your contracts end, you'll get factories again, and you probably want to
Yeah,
get at
that's true.
least one more because the sooner you get that factory, the less time before I'll need to stop doing this whole license scam that's costing me like 19 factories.
Yeah.
19, it's actually in a way cost me 38 factories because I 38 factories to provide 19 that can be used that way because half of it goes to consumer goods. So it takes 38 civilian factories for me to sustain that. It's kind of expensive to say the least. And then you pay a third of it in consumer goods. So of that 19, you only get to use like a dozen in construction. Um, but yeah, good time pause.
Yep. I really need to get off of civilian economy.
Yeah, can't be too much longer until the Genta does another industrial focus. If you had Intel or I had Intel, I could spy on them and
How do I spy on them? Oh, I have
uh
to build a spy agency, and I can't really afford that. You don't have the CIA?
nope, not yet. I have not yet formed the CIA. Have
Or I
not
guess
recruited
whatever their precursor is.
OSS. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
have not
Yeah.
recruited those psychopaths yet. It's probably
Dang.
about time I do it though. It's July of 38. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll give the Confederacy a supply agency when they rise up, but
Hmm.
even if it does, I need it. I need the bloody agency. I've been waiting too long to do it. Yeah, I'm starting on OSS now.
Okay.
Because among other things, I can use it to infiltrate countries and get political power on a crit success on the civilian
Oh.
infiltration. Yeah, which the crit success chance goes up with one of the agency upgrades. It's base chance 25%. That can be improved to 50%. And with spy traits, you can get all the way to 100%. So every time you infiltrate civilian administrations, you get 25 political power, which is very important. I need political power for a zillion things. So, and I'm doing anti-communist raids just to get my stability up because otherwise my stability will tank. Once I'm about to lose 20% in 10 days. So my stability is about to drop a bunch. And when my stability is below 100%, I don't get as much political power gain. So yeah, I'm thinking ahead. Uh, I can do another set of anti-communist raids. The decision actually ends just before midnight. Cool. Um, yeah, so I'm gonna lose 20 stability and 120 political power in 7 days. And I'm gonna spend a lot of time just gaining back my political power because
Oh, for a second there, I needed 5 trains. Don't know what happened.
probably bad weather that exceeded the capability of Mexico City to distribute supplies via horse, and so they started sending supplies via train somewhere. and then
Yeah.
the weather improved. It was probably like units consume more supplies and when the weather gets hot, or if there's like a dust storm or rain even. I think so.
Okay.
It was probably rain, actually. Uh,
Probably.
Air accident chance or loss. Nope, actually, rain doesn't increase, just storms. I think storms. Yep, supply efficiency. So it was and supply consumption. So there was probably a storm that passed through the north of Mexico. There's currently a storm in the south. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing it just moved south. Um,
Well, should I get a Spirit of Division command at some point?
of division command. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, eventually you might want static warfare. I know I keep emphasizing these defensive things, but well, for one, that gives elastic defense increased probability of drawing it, which you already have it as your preferred tactic. Uh, and when you're pushing into like the Central American countries, you're probably going to be like um, attacking in certain places and defending in others, very plausibly.
Yeah.
Um, Especially because you can't afford to overstretch the supply, and it's not great in those places. So you're probably
What about
gonna
logistical focus?
logistical focus is cool, but it, compared to extra entrenchment and elastic defense probability, I would definitely go with static warfare.
Okay.
When
Should
you
I pick it
start,
up now or wait? I'm at 58.
I
Should I
would,
just keep
I would,
saving for more
I would
doctrines?
just keep doing doctrines for now.
Okay.
Because there's still a lot of really good stuff down your tree. Like, I think your next thing is branch interoperation. That gives 10% coordination, which is huge. All that coordination will help your, like, if you use smaller divisions in attack, like to push in that jungle, they can make sure that they all attack the same target and don't spread out their
Okay.
attacks like willy nilly. Uh, so that you can actually deorg one of the defending divisions and then the other instead of, at both at like the same rate, which is far less efficient. So,
All right.
all right, man, pause this. Yeah, so I'm about to get like a Silver Legion protest event, uh, and I'm gonna crack down on it, which is cost me political power and drive them to further violence and start me on the path to my civil war. But
Oh, there's the fascists.
yeah, this nation right rebelled, and they'll probably lose. Wait a second.
Phalangists. Those are also the
Take a look at police. A lot of Polish corps are now
Oh
controlled by the
shit.
Soviets.
Yeah. Belarus and Ukraine
What
were
must have
returned.
happened is the Soviets demanded it, like sent an ultimatum or something to Poland, and Poland agreed.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's somehow when the Civil War broke out, the Soviets just moved in and took control of half the country. But yeah,
Huh.
Poland has been reduced to half size, and the fascists control Krakow. Uh,
Oh right. Soviet Union doesn't have cores, even though the states they're made up of do. That's so weird.
hmm?
It's really weird that
That
the Soviet Union doesn't have cores on the cores of the Soviets. that it is made up of.
Oh,
You know?
you're referring to like how Belarus has cores, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
on
you would think the Soviet Union would have cores on everything that the Belarusian Soviet Republic has cores on.
yeah, that's probably I think the idea of Belarusian culture is a little bit different than Soviet. It's sufficiently similar that parts of it consider them won't aren't gonna resist the
Yeah,
Russians, but
I
other parts
suppose.
are. If they're independent, then the government is like Belarusian. So it's kind
Yeah,
of Belarus.
yeah,
The eastern part is more Russian. The western part is more Polish. So it actually does make some sense, even though it
yeah.
people have complained about it. But when you think about
It's
it,
odd.
it's because there's a gradient. The further east you move, the
Yeah,
more Russian language is spoken, and the further west, it's Polish. And the Belarusian,
yeah, makes sense.
like even today, it's like a country where I think the government
Hmm.
like has a lot of its forms in both Polish and Russian and stuff like that, or something like that. It's
Yeah.
they're intentionally position themselves midway between Russian and Polish culture because they have
Hmm.
a lot of
I
people.
think Ukraine, Eastern and Western Ukraine are somewhat similar.
Yes, there were a little bit, although the Ukrainian neo Nazis went and murdered a lot of the Poles in Western Poland uh,
Oh yeah,
during World War II.
or Western Ukraine.
Yeah, so Ukraine's kind of got three regions. The very westernmost part is a lot of Poles, less since World War II because of the massacre and
Yeah.
deportations, but there are still some. And then the central part is like more distinct Ukrainian culture. And then the eastern
Hmm.
part has a ton of Russians, and that's the area that tried to break off with the
Yeah.
Russia-Ukrainian war. And then the Ukrainian government decided to bomb the separatists instead of agreeing to the referendum to declare independence. And then the Soviet Union moved in and kind of puppeted the breakaway region. And
Or with the Russian Federation.
yeah, sorry, did I said Soviet?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, no, the Russian Federation, which is definitely not the Soviet Union. It's
Yeah.
capitalist and nothing
Pretty
alike.
different.
Yes, and much more Russian chauvinist superiority. I mean,
Oh yeah.
people argue the
Oh
Soviets were
yeah.
trying to culturally assimilate. Not really. They actually
It's a lot worse
revived dead
now.
languages just to increase cultural diversity. Uh,
Yeah.
like a country that is literally reviving dead languages and like working to prevent cultural assimilation is definitely not. The problem is it's different, and you can find officials who are in charge of the
Yeah.
Baltic countries who are trying to force people to learn Russian, who are like
Mm,
involved in like overseeing the puppet governments there, and then you can find people in
right.
other countries in like Central Asia that were actively reviving dead languages. It's very
Yeah.
schizophrenic, except not really. It's individual people have different personalities and
Yeah.
wants and needs, and so the local
Hmm.
officials in charge of
The
some
country's not a
countries.
monolith.
Yes, it's not a monolith. No country that big is. It's just like in the U.S.
Hmm.
and the deep South, the government tends to be much more racist. And in like the Northeast and the West Coast, the government tends to
Yeah.
be anti-racist and will actually oppose, like if somebody, they'll be much harsher on hate crimes and stuff. It's very different. Um,
Yeah.
Same thing with the Soviet Union. There's very distinct ways of treating ethnic minorities depending on what part of the Soviet Union you're talking about. Because
Yeah.
it's why I get so annoyed when people act like the whole government was one giant monolith, because it wasn't. There were individual officials in individual parts of the country where racism was very prevalent and where it was not very prevalent. In Moscow itself, famously, they had some black Americans who went and lived there for a while, and
Paul
some people.
Robeson.
Yeah, Paul Robeson was one of them, but it was a whole like delegation of
Yeah.
Americans, and when some like drunk guy said racial slurs, there was like a citizen's arrest of the guy
Yeah.
by like his fellow. Like Moscow was during the Soviet era very anti-racist, but there are cities more towards the periphery of the
Yeah.
USSR where racism was very prevalent. Um,
Yeah. Especially smaller, like smaller towns, I'd
yes,
imagine.
yes, because the Russian Empire was very, very racist,
Hmm.
and smaller towns tend to be less with the times. So even if the central government was anti-racist, a lot of the small town local government officials who were elected by the locals were racists. It's
Yeah.
or or ethno chauvinists or whatever you want to call them. They were trying to force everyone to learn Russian, and it's not because it was the
Mm-hmm.
government policy. It's because there were individual people who were bad, and the government was very. It didn't have nearly as much control over the periphery as people like to act like it did. It wasn't, especially like the Warsaw Pact countries, which were like they were puppets, so they had a lot of autonomy compared to something that was part of the Soviet Union proper.
Yeah.
Um,
Were they truly like puppet states,
to varying
or
degrees, in Hearts of Iron
like
terms, they had,
it? How much autonomy would they have compared to, say, I don't know, South Korea?
compared to South Korea from the U.S.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Hearts Iron has all these different autonomy levels, right? Like South Korea would probably be considered these days to be like a dominion of the United States or something,
Yeah.
or maybe even just a unwilling member of an alliance of a faction that if they tried to withdraw,
Mm-hmm.
because faction leaders can get sometimes war goals if you withdraw from a faction. But at one
Yeah.
time, like in the 50s, they would have been
They would
considered a
like a proper.
puppet. Yeah, proper
Yeah.
puppet. And they just gained autonomy over time. Um,
Okay.
Warsaw Pact countries are all over the place. Some of them would be considered integrated puppets by the
Yeah.
Hearts of Iron system, and some of them would be considered colonies or dominions. They were
Ah. Okay.
it varied heavily from country to country, based partly on how much the Moscow trusted the governments of each ones. The ones they trusted more, they gave more autonomy to.
Mm.
Uh,
Okay.
so like and some of them, Romania in particular, they didn't trust, but Romania worked very hard to get like more autonomy and would often go against the central government's policy. So they'd be one that wasn't trusted but had a lot of autonomy.
Yeah.
Um, and things changed. For a while, Czechoslovakia had a lot of autonomy, but then there was the Czech Spring, and then there was a government crackdown, and that might be considered to have reduced their autonomy level, like all the way to integrated puppet from whatever it was before.
How did Czechoslovakia become communist?
There was a coup that was supported partly by the Soviets, like it received help.
Ah.
Um,
Okay.
I mean, there were local communist party. The way the Soviets turned countries communist is, the whatever what was the treaty? It's escaping my mind that set up the spheres of influence. The Yalta Conference. When the Yalta Conference happened, the Churchill and FDR and Stalin sat together, and Churchill was actually the guy behind a lot of this, but then denied responsibility, which is weird. And FDR was very clear. I didn't come up with to say this; it was Churchill's. Uh,
Yeah.
Churchill drew up spheres of influence between East and West, and he said, "These countries are our sphere of influence; these are yours," and with no respect
Mm.
for what the people of the countries wanted. So, like, Greece was added to the British sphere of influence. Greece wanted to go communist increasingly, because the British had already messed around with George the whatever, like, which is an event in this game, by the way. Like, he starts off as like a monarch who's hated by the people, and you can either let him manipulate the elections to go non-aligned or fascist, or you can put him under house arrest to prevent election interference, and then you go democratic or communist. And historically, what happened was, um, a little bit complicated, but when the British liberated Greece, they forced that monarch that the people hated back into power, who had gotten into power by manipulating elections in the first place. He election fraud basically. Um,
Yeah.
and after fighting, alongside Yugoslavian partisans and with Soviet support against, the Nazis and the Italians, the people of Greece, a large segment of them had essentially become communists, and a large segment were democratic socialists who were more friendly with the communists than they were with like the UK monarchist government that was. Um, so Greece probably would have gone communist if they were not added to the British sphere of influence, and the British hadn't literally unleashed Nazi garrisons on the on communist partisans in Athens, who had literally just helped liberate the state from the Nazis, and then they were attacked by Nazis with
Mm.
that on the order of the British. Like, the
Jeez.
British did not disband the garrisons; instead, they unleashed them on the, communist partisans and protesters. Um, On the other hand, so that's a country that probably would have gone communist if their self determination had been respected. Well, I got an event, but I'm actually going to delay it by 2 weeks because I can do that and it delays my losing political power. So I can actually do useful stuff with it if I want before it expires. Anyways, um, let's see. Looking at the map because this is a mental reminder. Uh, Czechoslovakia, there was a communist support coup, but that was definitely not a majority of the people who supported it. It was like
Yeah.
just a small, highly dedicated, I don't know, maybe 20% of the population supported the coup. So it wasn't nothing, but it was a minority that the Soviets gave guns to when they took over the government.
Yeah.
Bulgaria, on the other hand, had much, much higher communist support, um, thanks to partly to Yugoslavian influence, and the government there was fairly popular.
Oh, hey, Tito's in charge.
Oh yeah, Tito
Just
was
noticed.
very influential in spreading communism in Bulgaria and Greece, and
Yeah.
actually the Soviet Union tried to stop him from doing it so much because they were worried it would aggravate the West, and Stalin's whole policy was not to aggravate the West too much because he didn't want to get
Yeah.
invaded. Um, yeah, and because he was worried, the Yugoslavians wanted to form a Balkan federation with Bulgaria and Greece.
Ah.
And Bulgaria also wanted it too. The leader of Bulgaria tried to do it as well with Yugoslavia's help, and Stalin said no, basically. And Bulgaria was a Soviet puppet, even though the majority of people did support communism. They probably wanted an independent communism that was not affiliated with the Soviet Union, similar to Yugoslavia's
Yeah.
kind of middle road. Um, which the Balkan Federation is, by the way, one of the two communist paths that Bulgaria can take, and they form a faction with, and then end up integrating Yugoslavia and potentially Romania and Greece and parts of Turkey if they do that path. It actually happened in my single player
Nice.
Got to Dameron game. Yeah, it could happen
Yeah.
here. We don't know which subpath of the communist path Bulgaria is trying to go, only that's trying to go communist. And Yugoslavia went.
Yugoslavia doesn't have that sort of thing.
Yugoslavia does as well. They have
Oh.
two communist subpaths: join the Comintern or Yugoslavian path to communism. If they go Yugoslavian
Okay.
path to communism, they can form the Pan-Slavic Workers Congress, and they can instigate peasant uprisings in Bulgaria, in Albania to spread communism there. And then they can do the Pan and Balkan initiatives to spread communism in Greece, Romania, and Hungary. So, and they did go that path historically. They didn't join the Comintern. They tried to spread communism in Bulgaria, Greece, Hungary, and
Yeah.
Romania, and they had some success in Bulgaria and Greece. That's why I was saying when Bulgaria went communist, very quickly it got to the point that the majority of the population supported the communist government. On the
Hmm.
other hand, not so successful in Hungary. Horthy was violent. Horthy was like the fascist puppet, was violently anti-communist. He crushed the communist movement, and
Yeah.
even though the Yugoslavians did succeed in reviving it somewhat, it was still a small minority of the population. And when the Soviets helped that minority take power in the government, they formed a violently oppressive government that was infamous for like its secret police. So,
Mm.
uh, Hungarian communist government was extremely oppressive, much more so than say the Bulgarian one. The Romanian one was also pretty oppressive, but had much more popular support than the Hungarian one. Despite both were oppressive, but one was oppressive without the support of the population. The other was oppressive with pretty substantial popular support for a while, a majority of the population. But the support did wane as the years went on, and like by the 80s, most of the people were sick of communism, partly thanks to CIA propaganda, partly thanks to the Romanian government's oppressiveness and blunders, and partly
Yeah.
because they just saw communism as it became synonymous with control from Moscow, and they wanted
Oh.
independence. So, and the CIA was working to spread support for
Ah.
democracy in the country. So, um, plus, the Soviet Union kind of destroyed itself. Like people became envious of what the standard of living in the United States, and they got this silly idea that if they just went capitalist, things could be just as good as in the U.S.
Yeah. They
That
thought they
didn't
could have,
happen.
and they thought they could have both.
Yeah, they thought they could have all the
They could,
social welfare benefits of
yeah,
a communist country and all the like standard of like high
all the
supposedly
luxuries,
yeah all the luxuries of the United
all
States
the
and
blue jeans and bananas.
yeah, and instead they got neither. Like
Hmm.
their GDP collapsed. There was terrible poverty for a while, and Russia has only now reached the same GDP cap the Soviet Union had at its high point before collapse, which means not that they have caught up, but to where they're never going to catch up to where they would have been if the Soviet Union had collapsed, because the Soviet Union grew faster than modern Russia does, which means that they will always be behind where they would have been, and that gap will only get wider over time. Like
Yeah,
they may be where the Soviet Union was collapsed, but the Soviet Union would have had like 30, 40 years of economic growth on them today, and because GDP growth rate is faster, 30, 40 years will actually be a relatively bigger gap over time instead of smaller. Um,
yeah,
yeah, because the Soviet Union outgrew the United States on average, and it was for a long time the second fastest growing major economy in the world after France. And then later, after Nixon canceled the gold standard, everything changed. France's economy collapsed. Japan became the fastest growing economy, helped partly due to the changes in the strength of the dollar. The dollar got weaker. Japan started famously exporting a ton of cars to the United States because the dollar became
yeah,
really weak without the gold standard, without the Bretton Woods system that was kind of it wasn't a real gold standard, but it was like a sort of gold standard. It was just enough to keep the dollar from becoming like worthless. And and there was the famous stagflation of the like late 70s and such, and even into the 80s the dollar became relative the dollar devalued, Japan's currency devalued really far, and I don't know, something about end of Bretton Woods led to Japan being able to export a ton of goods to the United States. I'm not sure exactly what changed, because actually the dollar getting weaker should reduce Japanese exports, not increase them. So there had to be more to the story than that. But it could just be that Japan hit a certain point in their economic development around just the right time. But stagflation did hurt the U.S. economy too. Like GDP growth kind of stagnated during that period. Hence why they call it
yeah.
stagflation. Because wages were going up, so were prices at like the same rate, and the GDP wasn't really growing at all. It was
Ah,
a period of flat growth. And the only way that Reagan, in some ways, alleviated that, although actually there were a lot of years during his presidency where GDP growth was very low. But he made the stock market go up, which made people think that GDP growth had gone up, which really hadn't for most of his presidency, was by massive deficit spending on the military, which was only possible because by ending Bretton Woods, the United States could print as much money as it wanted, and the rest of the world had no say in it because they had to use U.S. dollars to trade in oil, petrodollar.
yeah,
And this essentially is a de facto tax on the rest of the world because you have to get US dollars to buy oil. You have to keep reserves of those dollars, and the US can continuously devalue the dollars you have in reserve by printing money. Like it devalues, people
yeah,
talk about how if the government prints money, it devalues the savings of Americans, but it also devalues the foreign currency reserves of every other country in the
yeah,
world that has US dollars, which is everyone. So it enables the government to borrow massively more money than it could otherwise do. So massive deficit spending, and that's why the U.S. debt got to be so darn big. And and then there was this whole idea, oh, if we cut taxes, it'll bring down the debt, but it actually made the debt worse. And Bush and
yeah.
the and now we're heading towards a collapse of the United States empire because partly because of Reagan. So um
Props to
and
Reagan.
yeah. Well, collapses are
I don't say
messy
that much,
and dirty,
but
and
yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean, we do a lot of harm in the world, but if I could design the way the future would go and I could just do anything, would have the U.S. like democratically reform into a kinder, better system, ideally into like something
Yeah.
democratic socialist, but um, like at least a social democracy and one that doesn't have an empire that spans the whole world and horribly oppresses like a lot of places in Africa and Asia and Latin America. Um, Unfortunately, that is not going to happen peacefully, which means the only thing that can happen is that we end up collapsing in ourselves, probably via another civil war at some point. And that's going to be messy. And that's kind of what Trump represents the beginning of, like the destabilization of the country that's only going to get worse. So,
Yeah.
all right, I'm going to
Well, these things should probably get better in the long run.
yeah, for the people who are under the boot of U.S. imperialism, the collapse of the U.S. empire is absolutely a good thing. But um, there's just going to be a lot of pain and even death if it turns into a civil war, obviously. Those people are going to die in a civil war if that
Yeah.
happens. Um, and that's probably is like going to happen, honestly. There is probably going to be a second American Civil War because there's just too many like fascists, honestly, who, I mean, they might be encouraged by Trump, but it's more likely that unless Trump turns the government fascist before he dies of old age or something, um, because in a worst case, he might try and run for a third term and screw the Constitution, but sooner or later, he's going to drop dead because he's not a young man. Um,
Nope.
but it probably happen then is there'll be a lashback, and for a while there'll be an attempts to reassert democracy and fix all the damage that Trump did, and because he's undermining democratic institutions, and then that will piss off all the fascists in the country, who will be much more numerous than they are now because they're growing. Partly thanks to Trump's influence, and partly thanks to other things like billionaires funding all this like alt right propaganda secretly,
Yeah.
or not so secretly. It's actually not pretty much an open secret that they're doing it. And yeah, and then the alt right will probably rise up, and there'll be violence and insurgency, and it won't be like the first Civil War where it's a bunch of troops line up shooting each other. It'll more likely look like a prolonged insurgency, more similar to like the Iraq War after Saddam surrendered or something. But
Mm.
yeah, there'll probably be another civil war, and that will tear the country apart, and the U.S. won't be able to project power around the rest of the world because it'd be busy trying to deal with the insurgency at home. And eventually,
And
once,
then
uh,
China takes over as the
yeah,
world power, I guess.
eventually, for a while, there will be like these like violent authoritarian regimes rising up, taking advantage of the chaos and conquering their neighbors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And eventually China will probably spread its influence and pick up the pieces. And the question then becomes whether they just build another empire or whether they actually stay true to like socialist tenets and try and lift up people
Yeah.
around the world. So
Well, we
that's
can hope for the best.
probably where the future is going, and it's going to be messy and dangerous and dirty. Kind of exciting, I suppose, for in a way, but in the way that a war is exciting, even when it's evil and horrible and people die. I mean,
Yeah.
something is happening, but the thing that's happening is horrendous, and it would be better if it wasn't
Mhm.
a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So fun to play a war game, not fun to live through a war. So I don't know. Um, I at one
Yeah.
time tried to train in ROTC, but it wasn't because I thought war is cool and exciting. I knew some cadets who did, and I'm like, you're idiots. I
I
wanted to.
mean, the British Empire didn't fall with a lot of warfare, did it?
It had a lot of civil wars in its like colonies, a lot of uprisings, and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, most of their wars
Mm.
were colonies trying to like break off and that kind of thing, and
Did they fight?
interventions.
I mean, which ones did they fight besides us?
They fought Kenya. Oh, I'm talking after World War II. Uh, they had
Yeah.
yeah. There was
That's
like
what I was thinking, but
there was like
notably.
yeah, it was like Kenya, Ethiopia. They had a whole, I forget exactly which one or both. They had a whole insurgency, and they actually invented concentration camps. Like
Oh,
death camps before the
yeah.
Nazis did. The Nazis actually copied it from the
Jeez.
British. Yeah, and that was how they were dealing with. It wasn't Ethiopia because Italy conquered it. It was
Yeah.
Kenya. Yeah. Although I think they did some of this after World War II. The UK took possession of Ethiopia, and I think they did some of that there too after World War II. But they definitely did some stuff like that in Kenya. They fought insurgencies in East Africa. Um, they fought insurgencies in like northeast Rhodesia, that area, what's now Zambia. The South African government was helping to fund some of that. Where
Oh,
else?
Zimbabwe
Yes, they fought an insurgency in Zimbabwe. That's right.
yeah. Oh, Rhodesia. I mean,
Yeah. Um,
yeah. Zambia's the one above it.
yeah. Zambia, Zimbabwe.
Oh, you North
Sudan had an insurgency. Uh,
is
Basically
is Zambia
everything.
also Rhodesia?
Uh, so if you look at the map here, Northeast Rhodesia is now known as Zambia. Rhodesia was the name it had a long time ago.
Oh,
Uh,
I
it,
didn't realize that was also known as Rhodesia.
Rhodesia is technically a region, but there was a government called
Yeah.
Rhodesia that was like a puppet
Ah,
of the
okay.
South African apartheid government and tried to like put a white supremacist government in charge. And then there was an insurgency by the African people there who didn't want a white supremacist government, and they eventually won. So
Yeah.
it's complicated. The South African government also got involved in the Portuguese insurgencies for independence that occurred
Hmm.
after World War II, because in Mozambique had an insurgency, and so did Angola. There was an insurgency in
Yeah.
Nigeria. There was an insurgency in Ghana. Like everything on the Sierra Leone, famously, pretty much everything on the map that's currently Union of Britain had an insurgency against the British, and the British were forced to withdraw. Like,
That makes
it's
sense.
not that they won military victories; it's they made it
Yeah.
continued occupation too costly politically, and so the British
Mm.
withdrew from a lot of countries. And then they tried to say we did it out of the generosity of our hearts. No, not really.
They always
Uh,
say that.
and it gets really complicated because interestingly, it was actually the Labor government for a long time that wanted to, even though they're the more left-wing party, that wanted to keep
Yeah,
the
the Liberal
empire,
Party.
and the conservatives that wanted to withdraw,
That
even though the
yeah.
conservatives like pre-World War II were actually the ones that wanted to keep the empire together, if I remember. Like Churchill was very big on keeping the empire together, and he was a conservative. So the parties kind of
Yeah.
switched policies after World War II. Suddenly, the
Mm.
Labor government wanted to keep keep the colonies, but that was partly because I think part of it was the labor government feared neocolonialism. They feared that if these countries made independent, they would just be dominated by multinational corporations, which is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Whereas the conservatives figured if they freed these countries, they wouldn't have to deal with insurgencies anymore, and they could still
Yeah.
dominate them economically.
I suppose we haven't seen any neo-colonial empires fall apart, have we?
Um,
So I guess it's hard to compare.
Neocolonial empires fall apart.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question.
Like us.
Neocolonial empires fall apart because the countries are always nominally independent. They fall
Yeah.
apart by the countries just fully removing the foreign control and influence. And that has started to happen. There are countries that have taken themselves out from under U.S. domination. Um, and and French domination, because the French also do a lot of neocolonialism in West
Oh yeah,
Africa.
in Africa
Uh,
for sure.
Specifically, what's no with the game labels, I'm trying to find it. Upper Volta,
Burkina Faso.
yes, Burkina Faso kicked the French out recently, and they did that.
Yeah.
They did that once before in the 70s, and then the French came back and
Hmm.
reasserted
Thomas
control.
Sankara.
Yep, after
Then they shot him.
they assassinated Sankara, and then they got the person who assassinated him in charge of the country, then invited the French back in
Yeah.
because
Hmm.
he was being paid by the French to do this. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure. I think that's the claim, and it's probably true. Um,
Decently
yeah,
likely.
it fits with the patterns of history and how these
Hmm.
things usually work. Um, Oh yeah, I just completed Union Representation Act, which means okay, I got more House support and Senate support than I had before because it reshuffles Congress. Basically, I can take a decision to reshuffle again, but
Assault concentration.
cool. Um, oh wait, accumulated wealth tax at. Wait, cancel that. I almost forgot. I'm gonna be +1 a day, but I'm gonna. Do I want to do a small lobbying effort? Do any of these focuses require? Requires 218 representatives. Requires 261. 100 go in opposition. So I'll be at 205. Yeah, I'm gonna need to do some lobbying. Uh, Probably a small lobbying effort, and maybe I pay farm subsidies a little bit later. Or no, how long does that take? 9 days. Just a small lobbying effort. Um, okay. Accumulated wealth tax at Silver Legion protests. Once I crack down on them, it starts attack. I have a choice. So in 7 days, I have to make a choice, and I'm going to crack down on them. We must outbow the mob, and that's going to start a ticker to the Civil War, Second U.S. Civil War, where the Confederacy rises up. Traditional
Mm.
Civil War, not an insurgency like I was talking about. This is very
Yeah.
much we're going to line up troops and shoot each other kind of thing, which is not what will happen if the U.S. has another civil war. It's gonna look more like Iraq or Afghanistan with people like detonating pipe bombs and IEDs and stuff. It's gonna be bad. If that happens, I hope it doesn't. It's not guaranteed to happen. In fact, the odds are probably. I figure it'll happen someday, but it might not happen in my or your lifetime if we're lucky. There's ways where
Yeah.
things empires sometimes fall quickly and sometimes fall very slowly. So there's still decisions that can be made. The collapse is probably inevitable at this point, barring something really big like a war with China that somehow revives the U.S. empire or something. It's theoretically possible if it's handled in certain ways, but most likely a collapse is inevitable, but it might not happen quickly if people are smart and do things to slow the collapse down. Like people think the Roman Empire fell overnight, but there were actual substantial periods where for 30, 40, 50 years things were stable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hardly an instantaneous process. And that's quite possibly what ends up happening. It might take, 100 years for the US empire to collapse, or it might happen in 10.
Mm.
These things can happen very fast or very slow. And
Do
people
you
have
think we'd just get like balkanized?
it's entirely possible that yeah, the U.S. breaks up into multiple separate countries. Like the South might, you might see like the states that were
Yeah, maybe
historically
three.
Confederacy break off. You might see the Pacific states break off, like California, Oregon, Washington might break off and form their own country.
Oh, rent freeze is done.
Texas might decide it wants to be independent and not even
Of
ally with the
course.
Deep South.
I could see that.
uh you might see the Midwest form its own country. You might see like the
Yeah.
plain states like Wyoming, Montana. Yeah, the U.S. could easily break into one, two, three, four, five, six different countries in a worst case
Yeah.
scenario. That's one of the reasons the U.S. empire can't hope to survive if that happens, because if a civil war happens, because it very likely ends with the U.S. becoming like six countries, which
Yeah.
none of which will be powerful enough to control the planet. So
Hmm. You know what? I wouldn't mind the Midwest being its own country
a lot of
with
people
with
probably wouldn't.
Wisconsin as the capital,
If
and then we can take
Midwest,
back the UP.
oh no, if the Midwest becomes a country, it would probably be based in Chicago or Detroit
Yeah, it
because those are
would.
the biggest cities.
Yeah, it probably would be Chicago.
Yeah, it's because Chicago is more central than Detroit, so it would.
Yeah, it's pretty central, and it's probably the biggest Midwestern city.
It's America's second biggest city
But
after New
it
York.
doesn't feel as Midwestern as Milwaukee.
It's true, but it's the center of power and
Yeah.
industry, and so therefore, if the Midwest became its own country, that would probably be the capital. Which is, by the way, what's going to happen in my Civil War here. The Midwest breaks off as the non-aligned states of America, and Chicago is the
Oh,
capital.
that happens too?
Yeah, I can prevent it from happening, but I want it to happen
Yeah.
because
What are you going to be left with?
everything except the deep South and the Midwest, most of the country, all
So
the
you're
plains
so the
stays.
entire western half of the country is going to be cut off from you?
There's a very narrow connection that runs through.
Oh, you keep Kentucky.
I keep Kentucky and I keep Missouri. So they have there's a single province border, but yes,
Wow.
the western half will, and I don't think they get cut off from supply network because via the Panama Canal and or even around the coast of tip of South America, there's a naval route to like San Francisco and stuff and Los Angeles, all the
Okay.
ports.
Zifo, right?
Uh, XEFO.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can get the law and industrial promotion. That's going to be
Okay.
strong. And how close are you on that last factory? Or you probably do you have any factory?
Um. Oh, I've got 9 on it now. It's only 13% completed though.
What's the expected
They
completion?
just started working on it. Um, 28th of November.
Cool. All right, so maybe some point I have to remember to like and
And I've
pro.
got 160 political power.
Yeah,
Captain of industry.
you prosecuted the clergy before, right?
I can do it again. I'm at 46 stability. Can I
Um,
prosecute another?
you do need some for war economies soon-ish, but yeah. The reason I'm asking partly is once you get that factor, I'm probably gonna cut off the license stuff, and I think that's preventing you from doing war economy, but I'm not entirely sure.
Oh yeah, it might be.
It could be, but it does
I
help.
mean, you can cut it off and then just redo it, right? Because we could
Uh,
just test it right now, see if I can grab war economy. Because I'd love to just grab war economy right now.
yeah. Let me manage license. I'll reduce it by you have 9 on construction, right?
Yeah.
Um, let's cancel
Oh wait, I
one.
still have 9 in the market, so I guess you can't cancel all of them, right? How many? How many? Okay. Do I even have? Okay, they have between 4 and 6 factories,
How many do you actually
and
have on the construction line
and
right now?
I on the construction line I have 9.
So I
Ones
should
that
be
I
able.
actually own is 14.
Yeah. But if you have 9, I should be able to cut off 9, and some of them might be going to consumer goods, so I might even be able to reduce it by more than that.
Hold on,
Um,
let's 6 divided by 14 is 42%. 5 is less. So they have to have the maximum number of factories that I believe they might have for it to work. Shoot. Hmm. They should just make these factories faster because they're not doing it.
hold on. If I cut off a little bit, it
Okay.
might just lead to
Alternatively,
inefficient.
if I kill them and declare war on the Confederates, that'll also let me bump up the war economy.
No, offensive wars reduce your war support instead
Oh,
of increasing it.
shoot, you're right. Never mind. Yeah. Oh, I gave them the order and they're taking the jungle, but
Yeah.
they're also trying to take the capital for some reason. I
I
don't know why they're
just
doing that.
did you just get a thing canceling some of the licenses, or
Yeah.
how many factories do you have in construction now?
One.
One. Okay, so yeah, some of it was probably going to consumer goods. I'm gonna cancel one more license here. If you can't take war economy yet.
Uh, can you cancel them all and then just redo them if I can't take war economy?
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Because you can
probably
just
just
redo them, right? There's no cost to it.
yeah. Oh, you might I
Okay.
might not be able to redo it for a day though. So you
Oh,
might have
oh,
a
that's all right.
all right.
Okay. So
And
I
it
have
probably has
11,
to tick for an
11
hour.
civ factories, 2 dockyards, and 2 military factories. So that's 14. And they have 6 factories. Hopefully. They might have less than that. No, not quite. They Did
If
you
they
let
had
it tick for an
6,
hour?
then you could have up to 15 factories, so they probably only have 5.
Yeah, they must have 5. What if I delete a factory?
Wouldn't recommend it. Uh,
Yeah, that's not a good idea. Ugh.
Probably there's you could just wait.
Wait, can you just give them a factory? Why don't you license some production or something from them?
Uh
Maybe buy their oil?
let's see about oil. Yeah.
Something you can cancel.
If I do the license then cancel, I think it hurts relations, but they're not going to exist, so why do I care if they
Yeah,
are pissed at me? No, I can't license them. They don't like me enough to do license
damn.
agreements. Uh, I
I
can
guess
buy
they're fascists.
I can try buying oil from them. It might help or it might not. I can do it for less than a day and just cancel it if it doesn't. Here, I'll buy.
Okay.
All right. Do it for a few hours and see. Can you run more
Oh yeah,
economy?
that works. I can take war economy.
Nice. So
All
it
right.
trade
So should I
does
just
help. That's
should
good
I
to
take
know.
war economy then?
Yeah, because I'm going to cancel this before the day even ticks
Okay.
over.
And that's not gonna have negative ramifications?
Uh,
Like it
you
won't kick me out of war economy?
no, as long as you're in a war and you have over 50%, even if your opponent drops below the factory, it shouldn't.
Okay.
Some of the requirements, if you drop below, it triggers a demobilization mission, and some of them it doesn't. Like the factory limit, no, shouldn't. I don't
What
think
does
that
it
trick.
demobilize to? Partial?
No, it gives you a mission to reduce your
Oh,
mobilization.
so I have to do it myself.
If you don't
Okay.
do it, you get strikes, which reduce your factory output.
Ah, okay.
So you can just suffer the strikes if if you know you're going to have the requirements met again very soon, and it might be
Yeah.
worth suffering a couple days of strikes to save the political power.
How bad are
If
the
you know,
strikes?
pretty bad. I think you lose like 30% of your factory output or
Oh,
something, and 40 of your construction speed or something like that. It's they're pretty nasty, but they're they're not game-endingly bad. I don't if I remember, and if you're only going to suffer from a short while. And I'm pretty sure war economy, you never get a demobilization mission while you're currently at war anywhere. So even if you don't have the war support anymore, I'm pretty sure you don't get it. What you can get is if you're below 50% war support or stability, either one, and you don't have the requirements met, you can get, well, actually, if you're below either, it doesn't even matter what your mobilization. You can get events, negative events, if either one's below 50% when you're at war, and those events are more likely if you're at war economy than if you were at civilian economy. The mean time
yeah.
to happen goes down by a lot. In fact, it's lowest at total mobilization, but same thing. Also, the more higher your conscription law also reduces the mean time to happen and makes those events more likely. So staying on volunteer only makes those events still pretty rare. But if you are on war economy and all adults serve and your stability is below 50%, you're eventually going to get some negative events with pretty high certainty, pretty low mean time to happen. Um, the further your stability is below 50%, the more likely. I think the thresholds are 50, 35, and 20 or something. So I would have to check the wiki. It has the thresholds and how different economy and conscription factors affect those events. But I don't
Okay.
think, but yeah, I don't think you
So
get demobilization as long as you're at war, no matter
do I need
what.
to get my base war support up to 50 so that I don't lose this stuff when the war ends?
You could, but the smarter thing to do is just to go into another war before the demobilization mission fails.
Uh,
So you you have a
and it's
national
okay if it's
spirit.
an offensive war and my
Yep.
war support drops to 8%.
Yep, it is okay. You will
Okay.
definitely get events from low war support, but those aren't all bad. If you spend political power in them, you have a chance of getting base stability or war support from them. It's not
Okay.
very cost effective. In fact, it's since you have decisions to build stability and war support, you'd be better off putting the power into those decisions, but it's not cripplingly bad, is what I'm saying.
All right.
And yeah, you'll still want to keep building your war support, but it's not going to give you a demobilization mission. It's just going to lead to like strike events and stuff, which you can end up with strikes that way too.
Yeah.
Or draft dodging is the other event. Draft dodging and strikes can happen if you're at low war support and you're in a war. So 8% war support, you'll definitely get some of those things if you start raising your conscription law, especially.
Okay.
Um, all right. Pause. Tomorrow I'm gonna have to make a decision on the Silver Legion thing. I should watch exactly what hour it ticks over. Oh yeah, I canceled the oil from. No, I didn't. Let me cancel the oil. I don't want oil. I'm already have my stockpile full. I only did
Yeah.
that so that you could do war economy, and absolutely no other reason. Hmm. Hold on. I need to queue up some more factories. I'm almost done in my build queue. I have a naval base, and I do want to do that eventually, but maybe not just yet.
So hovering over the arrow shows you the order in which they're going to try to take provinces. The arrow
Supposedly.
on an offensive operation.
Supposedly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't line
I
up perfectly.
I've not really seen it line up perfectly ever. I haven't been able to figure out how it even displays it. It's confusing.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
wiki says it does, but I don't know.
Because for some reason, I only drew it to that jungle province I'm trying to take, but they keep trying to take the capital using the automatic
Did
plan.
you draw an offensive line or a spearhead?
Um, I don't know.
That sounds like you used an
How do I
offensive
tell?
line. Uh, does the arrow have? Is it just one solid arrow with a point at the end, or does it have a bunch of arrows stacked on top of each other? Is the best way I can describe it.
Oh, it's just an arrow.
A single that's an offensive line. So offensive
I
lines
see.
will try and take neighboring provinces if on the way,
Oh,
especially if the
so I
terrain
need
is
to delete
like
this.
defensive, so that you protect your flanks, so to speak. Yeah, so you probably need to change that to a spearhead so that they will only do the jungle and not try and take the capital, since the whole point is to try and cut
It
off.
still highlights the capital when I highlight the spear.
You probably need to edit the path of the spearhead so you can left click on the capital and drag it right into the jungle.
Oh,
That's
wait.
because there's a potentially valid path that goes through the capital, so they can
Yeah,
path. But you should be able
it's
to change.
still doing it.
Hold on a sec. It's kind of finicky. I've been
I'll
always been
share
able
my
to get.
screen.
Yeah. Let me look at your screen here. Awesome. Jeez, 3.5 hours in the stream. Folks on YouTube, cutting this. I'll see you later. This is a miserably long upload, but ciao. Take care of each other. Be kind to yourselves. May always find a guy and start to lead you home.